up?
And we are
How
up.
are you? Good to see you, man.
Great to see you.
How does it feel
awesome.
to have another one done?
Oh, it feels great, but there's another one in the works, so it doesn't really stop. I mean, I hear some guys like John Grisham talk about they do 6 months of work and 6 months off, and that's kind of the routine that they've gotten on. But for me, it's go, this, the next one, scripts, although...
Do you ever anticipate doing like a 6 month on, 6 month off thing? Or
maybe when the kids are out of the house, maybe someday, way later on. But right now it's still building. It's just like any entrepreneurial type of venture. You got to just go and keep building and take advantage of momentum and look for gaps in the enemy's defenses and adapt and just go. So it's a constant thing from the second I wake up till everybody else is in bed and I'm working for a few more hours.
Yeah, you got to make hay while the sun's shining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think about that too with the podcast. I'm like, one day, I do so many things. Sometimes I'm like, one day maybe I'll just do one thing.
I don't know. You'd be able to do that?
I don't know. I don't think I'm ill.
Have you ever been bored?
I don't even know what that means.
Neither do I.
No, I never.
When people talk about being bored, like I'm going to hear that from one of our kids, I'm like, that's like the one thing that gets me.
Yeah.
But it's because I've never been bored in my life. There's
I'm bored
always
at
something.
things. Like if someone takes me to a gala and I have to dress like a monkey, sit there and wait.
How many of those you don't do those anymore, do you?
I had to do one recently.
Oh, for what?
Yeah, a friend.
Yeah.
There's an art thing that was going on here, so I had to
All right.
dress up and I'm like, Jesus Christ.
It's every now and again, it's okay, maybe. But if it's
Maybe. It was okay because I was next to my friend and
Yeah.
his wife and my wife, and it was fun.
You get
But
to-
it's for the most part. It's like that's the only time I get bored.
yeah.
Then I get hostile. Then I have a couple of drinks and I get a little hostile.
Do you? Are people nervous when you're there?
No, they get weird. People get weird, man.
Just looking at you, you're there?
Yeah, people stare at me.
Really?
It's gotten exponentially weirder over the last like 3 years.
I bet.
I used to be able to blend in.
Yeah.
5 years ago, I could blend in anywhere.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, just people say hi, but that would be it.
Okay.
Now it's
But now it changes the dynamic of the room type of thing.
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm not changing the dynamic of any room, I don't think, but people definitely in the airport stop and say hi, and I feel so just fortunate that people are interested enough in the books or the podcast or the TV show or whatever to actually recognize me and say hi. One guy recognized me by my Sitka backpack last night.
Oh, wow.
I was flying out here, and he's like, the backpack gave you away, because I was in the corner calling my wife on Mother's Day and my mom on Mother's Day, both, and I got
Saw the
walked by.
Optifade.
And he said, well,
Saw
no,
the
it's the gray one, it's the Drifter, so it just blends, but it has the little Sitka symbol. And he said, the backpack gave you away. I turned around and so said hi. But it's I feel extremely fortunate.
Yeah, I do too. We're very lucky guys to be able to do what we love to do.
Yeah.
When someone meets you too, also it's like your writing is so brutal.
This one in
And
particular.
you're such a nice guy. And it's like when someone meets you, they're like, what the fuck is going on behind those eyes?
I worry about that with I don't spend too much time worrying about it, but like our kids' parents, kids' friends' parents, that sort of thing. Like, did you read his book? It was a little disturbing. Maybe our kids shouldn't play over there, type of a thing. So,
Oh, really?
I know, well, I don't know, but that's kind of what I think about. Like, if I was someone else's parent and was to read this and not know me, never having met me, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden you read this thing, like, oh, maybe our son or daughter should find another friend.
I would worry about that more in California.
Yeah.
California. So what are we drinking here? What is this?
All right. So right here, cheers. Thank you
Cheers.
so much for everything.
My pleasure,
Amazing.
brother. And
Amazing.
look at this. The
Let's see.
official Jack Carr leather-colored
There it is.
whiskey glasses.
There it is.
Very
The
nice.
whiskey glasses. People are very fond of their whiskey.
And who made this whiskey? This is not bad.
So
It's very good.
here we go. So this is Hooten Young right there.
Okay. And
So
you made
some
a
veterans.
Jack Carr edition.
Yep, Jack Carr edition right here. And so there's both veterans, but Norm Hooten was played by Eric Bana in Black Hawk Down. So he was a Delta operator who's now out, makes cigars that I'm going to
nice.
show you here in a
Oh,
second.
makes cigars too.
Yep, cigars and this whiskey, and I put them in the show in the terminal list. So when Chris Pratt's there drinking with Boozer in that first episode, put a little Hooten Young on there, and there's no product placement in the show, in the books. People think that that's a huge thing, and in a lot of Hollywood, I think it is. If someone's like, "Let me open this tab," back
Right.
in 1985 or whatever, but there's none of that. It's all just character development tools, and so I want to try to hook up whoever I can, and these guys put in so much time in service to this nation. So it's right on the counter there in that first episode. But
That's the best kind of product placement.
yeah, and it helps
Organic.
develop
Yeah.
exactly. There's
Yeah.
no one pays to get in any of these, which was quite. I didn't know how it was going to work with Hollywood because it was my first time down that road. And I didn't think
Yeah.
they were going to say, hey, you know what? You have this, and I know it's important, and I know who the guys are, but how about this company? They're paying us, so let's put that in there instead. And it wasn't like that at all, which was pretty cool. And I think it's all because Chris Antoine Fuqua and the showrunner just held the line and said, hey, no, we're just going to use these things and make it organic and authentic and root this whole thing in this foundation of operator culture.
It also probably helps that you guys are on Amazon too, which is like a fairly new platform.
Yeah.
And in terms of like streaming and things, it's only like the last decade or so.
Right. Netflix had a little head start.
Yeah, as opposed to something like NBC or CBS or ABC, which is like probably standard operational procedure to like have people pay to put Coca-Cola on. And
right, because they need to make money however they can, because now they're in competition with Amazon and with Netflix.
They're going to come to you with Bud Light.
There you go.
You guys can fix Bud Light.
I saw a new one today. Did you see the Miller Lite one today?
Yeah, like, does no one learn? Does no one learn?
I mean, and they were taking all those ads that we loved from the 80s, and they were just putting them in shredders. Like, that was their campaign today. I saw it this morning.
So stupid.
I mean, I don't know. But once again,
like, there's something wrong. Also, there's something wrong with women wearing bikinis. Those women wear bikinis because they look great. They like to look great. They take photos of them looking great. The girls see those photos of them in bikinis. They get excited. Look, I look great. People buy it. Wow, she looks great. It's not bad to look great. It's just like it's not bad for a guy to have his shirt off. If Chris Pratt has his shirt off and he's looking ripped, it's not objectifying. I mean, I guess it is, but it's not negative. It's not negative.
It's selling movie tickets right there.
That ad is so weird.
Isn't it strange?
You want to watch it? Let's watch it. Let's watch it just so we can goof on it.
Oh, boy, here we go. I couldn't believe it this morning.
They don't learn. No one learns.
Well, it's just in general, I think. It's kind of those taking lessons from the past and applying them going forward as wisdom.
How about lessons from a week ago?
I know. It's not even the past. It's like a couple days ago.
The only thing that saves it is like maybe they spent a lot of money on it and they filmed it 6 months ago.
But
is that possible?
I've already seen that yet. There's an article from 2 months ago.
But still, you could put a pause on that.
Oh, it came out 2 months ago?
At least 2 months ago.
Okay, so it came out before the bullshit, right? Was that about the same time as the bullshit with Miller?
I just saw it this morning.
This says it was in honor of Women's History Month is when they put it out. So I'm like, as I saw it today, I was like, maybe there's a reason they made this and we just started seeing
But it's also crazy.
They want to shred all the good-looking pictures from the 80s. And they're buying it back. That was part of the thing. They're buying back all those old ads that people have, I guess, in their garage walls. That's what it said in this thing that I saw this morning.
Send us your shit. And
Oh, God.
And they're going to turn it into
mulch.
Good. Yeah, that's it.
First to brew beer ever. From Mesopotamia to the Middle
They're
Ages
saying
to
women
colonial America,
brewed beer.
They said they were the
women
first.
were the ones doing the brewing. Centuries later, how did the industry pay homage to the founding mothers of beer? They put us in bikinis.
With awesome pictures like that is how.
She looks hot.
Yeah. I mean, look at that. Those are
Those
great
girls
ads.
look hot.
Those are great ads.
Wild. It's time beer made it up to women. So today, Miller Lite is on a mission to clean up not just their whole beer industry.
Miller Lite's on a mission to make sure no one buys their stuff.
Been scouring the internet
Oh,
for
my
all this
goodness.
and buying it back so that they can turn it into good for women brewers.
They're
Literally.
scouring the internet
Scouring.
and buying it back.
Yeah.
Ladies, take it away.
Because that's easy to do once you get an image up there on the internet.
So what is she saying?
Give compost to dwarves. Push out beautiful fertilizer. That good
interesting.
shit helps farmers grow quality hops.
Yeah.
Which is then donated to women brewers to make their own really good
But there's definitely more shit out there. In your attic, in the garage, in your parents' basement. Send any shit you got into Miller Lite, and they'll turn that into good shit too.
Oh.
So here's to women, because without us, there would be no beer.
Wow.
Oh, God.
I mean-
hate identity politics with a
it's-
passion. I really do.
It's pretty interesting.
It's so
Oh,
stupid.
my Lord.
It's human beings made beer, okay? And some human beings look good in bikinis. It's like, what are we doing?
It's crazy.
Women do it. Women do it. Women do it. Like,
pretty
what?
wild.
I'd like to see a pie chart of how many women are actually involved in making beer or drinking beer.
Well, now I want to hold on to all those posters from Miller Lite that I have from the 80s in my garage. I'm not turning that stuff in. It's going to be worth a lot more now.
Do you have some?
No.
Imagine.
I wish I
keeping
did.
those.
all
Man,
those
this
years.
is it. Miller Lite ads are the shit.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was crazy to wake up. I mean, to see that this morning.
Does paper turn into compost? Is that how it works? I mean, isn't it a bunch of chemicals and
could.
shit?
Are they lying to us?
Why would something like that just get resurfaced on like a Monday? And now everyone's talking about
Because people are angry. They're looking to be
It's been out
angry.
for 2 months. That's what I mean. Like, it's been out for 2 months. We didn't see it
No.
before that. And
I think
now-
the Bud Light thing was probably so overwhelming that no one paid attention to anything else.
Yeah.
And now that that's kind of died down,
Yeah.
it's also
Well,
stupid.
since we're on
Coors Light
alcohol
probably
and we're on all that stuff, let me do this so I don't forget, because this is pretty amazing here. I know you like cigars, and as do I. And this right here. So these cigars right here, Hooten Young, the guy that we just talked to about this whiskey, that Jack Carr edition right there.
Oh wow,
So
look at the label.
This is pretty cool. So what they did, they called me and I was kind of like a million things going on, and I pick up and they started to talk to me about this, and it gave me goosebumps. And this right here is World Trade Center steel.
Whoa.
Right here. Yeah. World Trade Center steel. The guys that put this together aren't just Hooten Young, aren't just Norm Hooten. There's some, I'm going to call them 2 Army Rangers and a Special Forces guy. But we can talk more about them. Just incredible human beings who have sacrificed so much for this nation. And so they did this. And then he kept talking to me. And he said, under these cigars, under each one right here, so if I pull one of these out, you can see that there is some dirt under each one of these right here. And it's laminated in there over the top. So there's dirt and there's a little laminate over it. And each one of these comes from a special place. And right here, D-Day invasion, sacred sand recovered from Omaha Beach in Normandy. Right there. Largest amphibious invasion in history. So they have that there. Iranian hostage crisis, April 24th, 1980, Operation Eagle Claw. So that's when they went in to try to rescue the American hostages in Iran, Tehran, and they landed at a place called Desert One. One of the refueling birds hit one of the refueling C-130s hit one of the helicopters, and there was an explosion, and people died, and they had to abort the mission. They didn't have enough helicopters to keep going, so they brought dirt back from that. There is not much dirt that they brought back, but there is some in here. And Battle of Mogadishu, October 3rd to 4th, 1993, Operation Gothic Serpent, sand smuggled from the Black Hawk Down crash site in Mogadishu, Somalia.
Shit.
Under there. World Trade Center attack, Operation Enduring Freedom, the steel right here, and Saddam Hussein, Operation Iraqi Freedom from March 20th, 2003. So there is dirt from some amazing dates in special operations and military history in here. And each one of these cigars, you can tell right here, has, there you go, right here, you right there. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's
So,
incredible.
Amazing, yeah. Hooten Young, and then some guys that are out there at the tip of the spear that have access to this dirt from places like Operation Eagle Claw, Desert One outside of Tehran, Iran, is in here. So
Wow, put that back in.
Wow.
We're gonna save these
Yeah.
for some
So,
special occasion.
there we
That's
go.
amazing.
yeah. So I was blown away. So they made one for you, made one for me, and so we're the only 2 people to have these.
That's
So,
very cool.
Yeah. Operator cigars right there, and there you are.
Wow.
Hooten Young, cross tomahawks right there. Yeah, pretty amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Have you smoked one of these yet?
Not yet. Just it arrived just hours before I got here. So pretty cool. Pretty cool.
That's very cool.
So thank you guys, Hooten Young, and the guys at the tip of the spear who put this together.
Yeah,
and then,
thank you.
Yeah,
That's
amazing.
incredible.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely amazing. And this stuff launches, I think today. You have to wait for the government. There's all sorts of things you have to hop through, before they
For
approve.
whiskey?
Yeah, before they approve it. And so this stuff, I think it's launching tomorrow or today when this thing launches. But so that'll be out there. And what's crazy is you have to go through these patent things. So not like trademark stuff, with attorneys and things. And there's different little categories. So you have to do subcategories if you want to patent the cross tomahawks. So I have lawyers doing all that, and part of that's whiskey. And so they did the whiskey one, and like right away the Jack Daniel's lawyers, boom, right on it. Like they are very aggressive when it comes to any whiskey that has Jack in it, even though it's obviously a different label, different style bottle, different, no connection.
They get upset at the name Jack?
Yeah.
Jack Carr?
Yep.
Don't they just look at it and go, oh, that's the author?
Well,
Come on, Jack Daniels.
Seriously, Jack Daniels has done so much for America's.
We love you, Jack
We
Daniels.
love
Don't
Jack
be
Daniels.
cunts.
I know. Seriously, but it's but they're very good. They did something with they had like a dog poop thing that was out there with Jack Daniels on it or something like that. You can look that up, but it was a big thing. I think it went to the Supreme Court recently. So, point being, they're very aggressive. We do love Jack Daniels, but their lawyers get a little aggressive and juxtapose that because while you're doing this, yeah, there it is, right there.
Whiskey and poop thing dog
Isn't that
toy
weird?
meet in a trademark clash. Oh, boy. That's lawyers. That's just lawyers. Got a bunch of people that probably work for the firm, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, this is an opportunity to get on the board.
Yeah, they get very aggressive. But you juxtapose that, so there's also Carr wine. And so we happen to drink a lot of that in our household, just,
My dog has one of those.
Really?
Yes. Marshall has one of those. He's got a fake Jack Daniels. As a matter of fact, there might be a photo of him with it on his Instagram page. My dog's Instagram has like 750,000 followers.
Blowing up.
He's so handsome.
That is awesome.
He's adorable.
That is awesome.
But I'm pretty sure in one of his photos, he's
got one of those?
a rubber bottle of Jack Daniels.
That might have spurred this whole lawsuit, you know.
I wonder.
But point being, it's there's also Carr wine. And
there he is.
There it is right there. Look at
Yeah.
that. Oh, look at that. That is a great shot. So they should be excited.
That's his best position.
Yeah.
That's his
likes
favorite
that.
position is cuddling. He's when you watch TV, he hops on board and just puts his head on your chest. He's the best.
But we do love Jack Daniels. They do so much for the
love
military.
Jack Daniels.
I know.
It's not them. It's some
It's not-
lawyers.
yeah,
some
I think so.
dipshits. I mean,
But-
also Jack Daniels has been around for like what, 100
Long
years
time.
plus.
Long
Like, how long
time.
have they been around? So it's not really Jack Daniels. It's
No.
people that assume a position at Jack
Yeah.
Daniels and go after dog toys.
And anything with Jack in the title anyway. So hopefully we can work through that. But different than the lawyers for Carr wine. So same situation. You have to do wine is separate than liquor and that sort of a thing with trademarks and all that. And so Carr wine reaches out, but they're like, hey, kind of excuse us. We're big fans, but love what Jack's doing. But what are you guys planning on doing with this wine? And it's really just kind of a series of things you just do when you apply for a trademark just to cover things. And they were awesome. And I was like, these guys are so fun. We drink their wine anyway, been drinking it for years. And I was like, hey, just tell them if I ever do a wine that if they were uncomfortable with it, I'll just change it up. Just whatever they wanted, it'll be totally different anyway, but I'll show it to them first. So I told the attorneys, like, just tell them whatever, we'll sit down and have some wine together.
So is the company named Carr Wine?
Yeah. So there's Carr Wine, Carr Vineyards, maybe in Northern California, I think, and they're out there in all the grocery stores, and they're pretty big, but they're good. Good solid wine, and
But they were cool about it.
Yeah, super cool, super cool. Yeah, their lawyers reached out, but it's the same situation. But you can be cool, or you can not be cool. Be cool like Fonzie. You know?
Be
like,
cool.
Just be cool like Fonzie. Like, how hard is this?
Well,
Man.
it's lawyers. I mean, it's also that's their job.
Yeah, that is their job.
I mean, it's
Supposed
like
to
the
protect.
scorpion and the frog. It's in
Yeah.
my nature.
Yeah, and they're there to protect, so I do get it. But
Yeah.
that's okay. But you still be nice about it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully
It's
this
so
podcast
aggressive.
will maybe lube the gears a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. Be cool,
So are you guys, is season 2, it's on hold now because of the writer's strike?
Well, working on the scripts. So it's
Are you allowed to work on the scripts?
No, I mean, I'm not part of the guild yet. I would be after this one because I'm writing the finale. But out of respect for what they have going on, I'm pencils down on it too. So all the writers that are part of the WGA pencils down on all their projects right now. And
So the Writers Guild is only television and film. It has nothing to do with authors.
nothing to do with publishing industry as far as the books and Simon & Schuster and all that stuff. And same thing with video games. I learned video games because there are writers for these video games.
Yeah.
And so that's not part of it either. So people can work on that stuff. But it's the television and film.
And is the main dispute streaming? Is that what's going on?
Streaming was been a long time coming. So that was coming to a head anyway, and they probably should have negotiated, or not they should have. It's been a long time in the works just because things have changed so much since the last writer's strike when it comes to streaming. And but then right when that comes to a head, AI hits the news this January. Of course, AI with ChatGPT and all that stuff, and people are putting it, as you've seen, people can just say, hey, write a show about X, Y, or Z, and pops out, not bad, do a little editing, off it goes. And you don't have to pay a writer's room. So if you're an executive and you're beholden to, I guess, shareholders or whatever it is, maybe that's attractive. But not so attractive to those people who make their living coming up with these ideas in a writer's room and then making all this money. Essentially, the foundation of everything that we see in film and television happens in those writers' rooms and happens from these creators. And they make a lot of them. It's not huge money they're making anyway, but it's just how do you deal with streaming and how do we deal with AI? And we'll see.
What is the solution to the AI problem? Because
I don't
we're
know.
dealing with ChatGPT 4 now, and as ChatGPT 5, 6, and 7 roll out, I would imagine they're going to be able to write in the style of Jack Carr and write a perfect James Reese novel.
Maybe eventually. Somebody did that right when it came out. I think in January, I got a text and I said, check your email. This is what I just screenshotted ChatGPT. I said, write the first novel or first chapter in the next Jack Carr, James Reese Terminalist thing. And it wasn't great, but in 5 years, it probably will be.
Right.
So,
and
I
even
don't
if it's
know.
not great, it maybe is a scaffolding for an actual writer to go in
Exactly.
and put some real flair to it.
Exactly.
This new book is really good. Man.
Oh, thank you.
I'm in,
Thank
like
you.
I said, I think I'm on chapter 24 or 25.
Nice.
And you writing, I liked how you switch your styles up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like there's like new elements to the way you do things.
Thank
Like
you.
I don't want to give anything away, but when Reese is incarcerated.
Yeah.
There's something to the way you're doing it differently. It's interesting.
Because you don't have the same novel every time.
Yeah.
It's just you pick somebody up and he's a carbon cutout and you drop him now in Europe. Now he's getting revenge. Now he's in Africa getting revenge. Now he's in China. So I wanted to avoid that, and that was right out of the gate. I was cognizant of that being something that could be an issue if you have a success. Just kind of trying to copy that, and I never wanted to do that. I always wanted to evolve, just like anything else in life. Like in the SEAL teams, my whole mission was to be a better operator and a better leader today than I was yesterday. Personal front, be a better husband and father than I was yesterday. And for writing, be a better author for the next book than I was for this one. I want my next sentence to be better than the sentence before. So it's so this one, James Reese is on a journey, and that's one of the things that we have in common, just with everyone else on this planet. We're all on a journey. There's no matter your race, your religion, your socioeconomic background, you're on a journey, and you don't know how much time you have on this planet. You get one ride. And so got to make it count. So people are trusting me with that time, which is something I take extremely seriously. So as much thought goes into any Instagram post or blog or question for a guest on my podcast or whatever it is, as goes into any sentence in the novel. And I want to always improve on that craft every single time. So James Reese is on this journey. He's not the same guy he was in the first book, not the same guy he was in the third, and he's not the same guy he is in the sixth one. He's evolving. He's learning, taking those past successes and failures and taking those lessons and applying them forward, hopefully as wisdom. Hopefully we're all doing that. Except for Bud Light and Miller Lite, apparently. But
they'll learn too.
They need to read these novels, perhaps, and
they're only
figure out how
down
it's done.
21%.
No big deal. And that's more than a rounding error. I think that's more than a rounding error.
That's a real number.
That's tough to come back from.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, what's interesting now is gay bars are now boycotting them because they didn't back up Dylan Mulvaney.
I saw they can't win. They just waded into this thing. It's like an L ambush. You walk in and you're getting hit from all sides, and you're kind of cover up. And then they did that one post. They put like their first one after that. It was they put the Bud Light can and they said TGIF ? But what they should have done, this is hindsight.
They should have laid low.
Well, they could lay low and hope that somebody else messes up, like Miller Lite here a few weeks later. Even though it was before, we just
the Miller
learned.
Lite one is very mild.
It's pretty mild, but it's kind of a.
It's just silly. It's just like you're also attacking women. You're attacking these girls that are fitness models. There's nothing wrong with being a fitness model, just like there's nothing wrong with being a male fitness influencer. One of those guys that does like a lot of posts on lifting weights and technique, and they're shirtless and they look jacked. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a beautiful woman who makes a living taking photographs with beer.
No, guys that drink Miller Lite like that.
But it's this narrow view of what a woman is supposed to be, that a woman is only supposed to be a lady who's succeeding and killing it in the corporate world. And like, why? This is why.
I saw another one that was similar to that. So they said, why are we vilifying women that stay home and raise kids and handle the household and that sort of thing, but celebrating the men pretending to be women who stay home and do the same thing. So it's kind of like that juxtaposition. Those dichotomies are interesting. But
well, particularly in the way they dress, right? Because one of the things about trans people is that like you'll celebrate the most stereotypical like image of what a woman is, like short skirts and a lot of makeup and fake eyelashes and like elbow high gloves and the whole deal. It's like it's a caricature of what it's drag. Like what is drag, right? It's like the most ridiculous version of what a woman is, and it's celebrated. But an actual woman like that is disparaged.
We live in interesting times, and I think if Bud Light, remember that scene from The Hangover where Bradley Cooper, they pull over to the side and he's on the road, they're all beat up and he's covered in dust and everything, and he takes that phone call and he's like, man, we fucked up. Like if they just played that clip, like that 10-second clip, and just people would have been like, just put that up, just put it up, and people would have been like, okay, all right, everybody screws up, everybody messes up, we're all trying to navigate this kind of new world, and we're all trying to do the best we can. And
I went on a Bud Light tour back in 2007.
Really?
Me and Charlie Murphy and John Heffron, we went on a Real Men of Comedy Bud Light tour.
Nice, like Real Men of Genius or whatever that was.
The guy from Survivor was with us.
Jeff Probst, the guy that...
No. The band. Like, it's
Survivor.
the Eye of the Tiger.
Nice.
Because those were the guys that would sing the song, Real Men of Genius.
Oh, no
remember
way.
those?
I do remember those, but I did not know that was
really
Survivor.
Funny. Those were
No
funny
kidding.
ads. And those guys did those ads in front of the audience. So it was like, it was a fun tour. And that gentleman has passed away, the Survivor guy. I believe so. Wasn't the lead singer of Survivor? Didn't he pass away? Super fucking cool guy, though. What a hell of a voice, too. Dang. Yeah, so we get to hang out with those guys and travel the country with them for a month.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we did like 22 dates, and I got to become friends with Charlie and Heffron, and we traveled around. And that was when Bud Light embraced this humorous, like sort of dopey man version of, beer, which is like what everybody likes.
Yeah.
Like, do you know Shane Gillis? One of the best comics in the country. He's fucking top shelf.
If I saw it, I'd know it. But
He's a new guy coming up. But anyway, he drinks Bud Light, and he's in a dilemma.
Oh, boy.
Because he'll drink Bud Light on the podcast, and we've had podcasts where he drank 16 Bud Lights.
16 in 3 hours?
He's a big boy.
Wow.
Big fella.
It's all relative.
He can put him down.
Yeah, it's all relative.
Yeah, he can throw
That's
down some
amazing,
fucking
though.
beer.
Even how big you are, that's pretty serious.
I don't even know
How many did you do?
Fluid.
Were you joining him?
I just can't keep up with that. I'm 6, 7 in. I'm done.
6, 7?
I can't stop.
That's
peeing.
pretty good though. 3 hours.
But
Yeah, the peeing.
Bud
thing.
Light is a light beer. It's only like, what is the percentage of alcohol? 5%? Yeah, it's light.
It's a lot like water.
Yeah, it's for people that like to drink all day long.
You can hydrate with it.
Yeah,
It's actually
you
not
can
to worry.
hydrate with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't
get a
worry
little
about.
nice little buzz. You hydrate. It's not offensive tasting.
No, now it's just offensive.
Well, it's just one ad campaign. It's just so dumb. And the lady behind it was her. Oh, yeah. Just like talking about the fratty sense of humor. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to replace it with this fucking mentally ill person?
I know. It's tough. They had a
that
winning.
just needs attention constantly.
I mean, they had a winning campaign going for decades. It worked.
Yeah, they should have gone back to another real men of genius.
Yeah.
Listen, you can make fun of men hardcore in those ads, and we'll laugh along with you.
Absolutely.
It's like it would have been fine.
Yeah, but
And they would have
no.
got people to buy Bud Light, which you got the opposite.
You got
now
the
the gay
opposite.
folks don't want it. The trans folks
Nobody.
don't want it. Nobody
Everybody's
wants
mad
it.
at you. It's tough.
They're saying, I've read this story where this bar owner was saying that he had to stop carrying it because people were attacking people that were drinking it.
Oh my gosh.
So people that were like, fuck it, I don't care. I'm not
Right.
involved in this. What are you, fucking communist? People just beating people's asses for having Bud Light. They were having fights at the bars.
It's so sad. I think who are they owned by now? Aren't they owned by some international corporation at this point?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they owned by a Chinese corporation?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Who owns Bud Light?
I think somebody in Europe.
Yeah, who owns Anheuser-Busch? Let's find out who owns
It's a
Anheuser-Busch.
European company, isn't it?
Maybe.
But
Whenever something's bad, I blame it on China.
Yeah. Like those headlights, like those lights that you got,
Oh, the ones for my Land Cruiser? Those actually were from China.
Yeah.
They would look cool. They just died. They got water in them somehow or another. Like, how do you...
jeez.
It's a fucking Land Cruiser.
I mean, come on.
How are they
Yeah.
not sealed?
Yes, a company called InBev bought it. I've never heard of that.
Well,
And what's InBev?
I don't know.
tied to the communist
I want to
China-
short them
China's
right now.
party.
I want to call my broker. I got a feeling this is going to keep going.
Belgian multinational.
Belgium.
Yeah, let's manipulate some markets right now.
Yeah.
Well,
I think you could.
Let's take a break, though. Let me
Yeah,
make a couple calls.
So we have this podcast that we do called Protect Our Parks that I do with Shane Gillis and Ari Shafir and Mark Normand, and we get hammered like most of the times.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure out what's the least woke beer to drink. And Mark Normand said Colt 45, and I think he's right.
Is he? Well, who owns it? We got to look it up. You don't know.
I don't know, but Colt 45, like
You don't know.
that is the least woke advertising campaign.
It
at
was.
least.
I remember growing up; those commercials were fantastic.
Malt liquor.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff is. What is the alcohol percentage of that? That stuff is brutal.
More than Bud Light.
Yeah, a lot more. That stuff's rough. That's not even real beer. It's
No.
malt liquor.
5.6.
Malt liquor is?
Well, Colt 45 is according
Interesting.
to
Really?
Wikipedia.
What about Old
Wikipedia.
English?
It's an old. It's a psyop. It's psychological operation. You just
Right.
think it is,
Something else in there, maybe.
but they're saving
Old
maybe.
English
That's
800 is just slightly. Well, it says it ranges from 5.9 to 8.
Maybe we need. Well, I would say Canada is the wokest fucking place on earth right now. I would have said go with Canadian beer because Canadian beer is like 9%.
Yeah, they have like
Oh, is it?
triple X stuff.
Yeah, they get hammered up
Oh,
there.
nice.
Yeah.
They go hard. It gets
yeah,
cold.
it's have to. It gets really cold. You got to
It
do
gets
something. Got to do something up there.
They lock themselves in and get fucking plastered.
You got to do something up there. Someone was talking about Canada and food the other day. You don't hear about somebody saying they want to go out and have a nice Canadian
Andrew
meal.
Schultz.
Was that it?
Oh my God! Let's play that bit.
That was-
Andrew Schultz's bit.
Did I see that on yours? Where did I see
food.
that? I
Maybe
saw that
we
somewhere.
played it here.
Oh, did
It's fucking genius. He does a bit about countries that suppress their women.
That's it.
About how horrible it is to suppress women.
That's it.
It's a fucking great bit. See if you can find it.
Okay, so I do know that. Yeah. That's what I saw. Yeah.
This is such a good bit.
It's pretty clever.
This is such a bit.
There's a lot of countries in the world that treat women like shit. That's fucked up. But they got the best food. That's undeniable, right? The more a country's like, stay in the kitchen, the better the food comes out of the kitchen, right? It comes out more delicious that way. Have you ever eaten food from a country where the women are equal? Oh, get the fuck. Get it away. Get away. What is that? Equality cuisine? Move it. Move. Nobody in this room has ever said, you know what we should do for dinner tonight? Canadian. Never been said.
Exactly.
Never once.
That's it.
Canada treats their women equally. Their food is fucking dog shit. It's disgusting. Canadian bacon? Kill yourself if you like Canadian bacon. What is this coaster of ham? What am I looking at?
I actually like Canadian bacon.
Yeah, Canadian bacon. That maybe wasn't been the best analogy.
I know what he was doing
Yeah.
there. But it's a funny joke.
It is.
It's a great joke. But no one has said, let's go eat Canadian.
No.
I mean, I don't even know what that means.
I don't know what it means either.
Poutine, I think is all.
Poutine's good.
What would
I
you
think
do?
that's French, though.
Yeah, that's
I know,
over
so
from
what
that.
would
That's
you
more
get?
east. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Montreal.
Yeah, and there are some good restaurants. in
Poutine's
Montreal.
pretty bomb diggity. They got smoked meat. Actually, Canada has some good food.
And who's the hunter that has his place up? Is it in Montreal?
Michael Hunter.
Yeah. He has
No,
his-
it's Toronto.
Toronto. Okay, I have his cookbook.
Antler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have his cookbook.
That's the guy that when the vegans were angry, he butchered a deer in front of the window.
And was he on the podcast?
Yes.
And
yes.
so I've met him before as well. Super nice guy.
Very nice
So you don't
guy.
think that he would do, like, just having talked to him, like, you wouldn't think that his mind would just go there to do that. But that was, it was pretty legit.
Well, it was a smart move. Got him on the podcast. Got him famous. I mean, like, take advantage. I mean, these people are like making it uncomfortable for people to go to his business.
Yeah.
Just because they have an idea of what you should and shouldn't eat. And if someone confronted them, like unless you are growing your own vegetables and you know exactly what happens, you are responsible for animal death 100%. I mean, there's a crazy video of this combine going through a field, and it goes to this patch of like I guess it's probably corn or something like that, and 13 deer run out of there.
Wow!
Like, you know how many of those fawns get chewed up? You know how many rabbits, and you know, like, if is a life? Because I'll tell you what, you lose a lot of life for a pound of grain.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what, poisoning, pesticides, herbicides, like.
Yeah.
This idea that you're going to have some zero karma, no worry at all vegetable dinner, like, fuck off. You're not.
Or just getting the things, getting your like the organic paper towels or whatever they have. You know, they have those things. Just getting those to the store. You know, grabbing them across the country. The amount of insects that hit the windshield. I mean, it depends. And Steve Rinella has that thing, right? Doesn't he have the pyramid of things like fish? Nobody cares. That whole deal.
I had a post that I did on Instagram way back in the day called "The Hierarchy of Dead Animals on Social Media."
That's it.
So I said, like, if you catch a fish, no one's upset at you.
Yeah.
And then I showed a picture of me with a dead turkey, like, we're crossing into a weird
Getting
area, but nobody
closer.
cares.
Yeah.
And then I had a package of bear meat.
Right.
Just a package, just meat. It just said bear meat. And it's like, you can get away with a lot. You do it in a sneaky way. Yeah, there is bear meat.
And that's okay. That was okay, right? Not too many people hating on that one.
The hierarchy of dead animals on social media. Yeah.
When did you put May 1st, 2015?
Yeah.
Gosh, 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Amazing.
Yeah, that was probably the last time I hunted bears.
Was it?
Yeah, I haven't been up there in a while. Well, there was the pandemic, and and then you couldn't get up there for a while.
Yeah.
Now I'm just angry at Canada.
Yeah, they invite. Yeah, it's Rivets. They've been in touch and want to try to get me up there. And
It's a
I'd love
crazy
to get
spot.
up there.
They have so many bears up there, and anyone that thinks that somehow or another bears, like, they're a protected species, listen, go to Canada, go to Alberta, and go wander around the woods. There are so many goddamn bears.
Yeah,
they have to kill bears. Like, their deer population, their moose population, all depends on it. They are overrun with bears.
Yep. No, absolutely.
When we were up there, there's bear cannibalism.
Yeah.
John, one of the guys that was this Jonathan, one of the sons of the Rivets, he saw a bear, a male bear, the boar attacked a female and was trying to get to her cubs, killed one of her cubs. The female chased the bear off, and then the female ate her own cub.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, these aren't teddy bears.
Yeah.
They're edible monsters.
Yeah. Did you post a picture of your bear at one point, and that's where the hatred? There's a lot of hate.
Oh, I got a lot of hate
Yeah,
for that. Yeah, they
Yeah,
posted
but
it.
that's the-
I didn't post it. Alaskan monsters, bears go at it. What is it? Longest, most intense grizzly bear fight he's seen.
Oh,
You missed
geez.
it?
No,
I'm
I've not
guessing
seen
by
that.
your reaction, you did not see this. Then.
This is
It's like an
May
8-minute
11th. Just a few
fight.
days
It's
ago.
Crazy fight.
Just a few days ago here.
This is an intense fight.
Oh, I've
Is
not
this
seen
new?
this.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
pretty
I
new.
haven't seen this one.
May 11th.
I mean,
this year.
we could go into. I don't. It's
Look at
long.
that thing. Oh my gosh. That is incredible.
That's nature's cleanup crew, ladies and gentlemen.
There it
Anything
is.
that fucks up gets eaten by this 2,000-pound monster.
And here comes this guy. This guy's
Dude, it's gonna happen dangerously close to us.
Oh boy. Here we go.
Look how beautiful they are. Look at the
I know,
coat
it
on
is
those
beautiful.
things.
Gosh. Look at that backdrop.
Yeah.
People will say it's CGI. That's
Wow.
incredible.
Weird life they have.
Look at that. I mean, that looks pretty evenly matched at this point.
Yeah, they're both the same size.
I mean, it's
They just bite in each other's faces.
he who's been training harder.
Fuck, man.
Oh.
They do a lot of jujitsu,
Wow.
though. Look
Look at
right
that.
there, those little Gramby
Yep.
roll.
There it is. Oh, oh, going for the back.
He's got
Taking
his
the
back.
He's been watching UFC. Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
though.
he's just
Taking a bite.
biting
Oh
chunks out of his
my
back.
gosh. And that guy's trying to get away now. He's trying
But
to.
they're thick.
Too late.
Their skin is so thick and they're covered in fat. He was like,
Oh
that's
my
just
gosh.
annoying. Like, bro, get off me.
Wow.
I will say this goes on and on and on. How long do you want to watch?
Wow.
This is a good fight.
Yeah,
You might
this
wanna
is
watch
pretty
it
good.
when
Oh,
you
look
can
at this.
pay
Oh.
really good attention.
Oh my gosh.
I like how the other bear just keeps moving, though. That's good.
Oh, he's
I
trying
like
to-
his technique.
Oh, there he goes.
Guy's
okay.
still got his back, but he's
Trying to
rolling.
reverse.
Oh, he's pulled guard. Trying to get him off of him.
Oh my gosh. That is crazy. That one better
Jeez.
run. That one better just get on those getaway sticks.
I don't know. I feel like he's
gonna
gonna.
reverse
The other
it?
guy's gonna gas out
Yeah, we're good. We're good. I'm watching.
Oh my
because
gosh.
the guy's wasting all his time biting him in the back.
Yeah, maybe he's going for like the spine or like. No,
It's not really gonna happen.
no.
No, I mean, no one. I don't think anyone dies. No spoilers.
Oh, really?
It's just it's an intense fight. It's a crazy fight.
Well,
Amazing.
you know who got the best bear fight footage before this was Grizzly Man,
Oh.
which is
yeah.
one of my favorite all-time comedies.
I haven't.
It's the
I haven't
best.
watched it.
You haven't watched it?
No, I keep meaning to, and I haven't watched it, but I know that.
Oh my God!
yeah.
Have a cocktail and
Uh-huh.
watch Grizzly Man. It is
Yeah.
the best unintentional comedy that's ever been made, and I wonder if it's unintentional because Werner Herzog is a genius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
You know, and he's made so many amazing films, and that to me is his my favorite of
Yeah.
his films. And there's so many moments that just are laugh out loud funny. Like there's one where there's a sheriff and he's talking about like finding the body and the fact this guy was camping with him.
Oh, man.
And the sheriff looks at the camera and goes, "I thought he was retarded." Like, it's like the way he says it. It's just like,
You know
and
that
then there's a smash cut and like
the bear guy always gets eaten by the bear. The shark guy ends up getting eaten by the shark. The rattlesnake guy
Yeah.
end up getting bit by the rattlesnake.
what's happening with these?
That's just the trailer.
For Grizzly
for Grizzly
Man.
Man?
Yeah, that poor guy. Well, that guy was very, very sad.
Oh.
He was a sad guy, and he had this idea that he was protecting them. But he just doesn't even understand. He doesn't understand wildlife conservation. And
That's so brutal. If the lion guy gets eaten by the lion, you
Yeah.
know, it's always the way.
But this is an amazing, brilliant tale of adventure and potential madness, and hilarious. Well, I feel like genuinely this story was suicide by bear.
Yeah. It was
Because
just-
he stayed long after you're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
He stayed after the animals were in hibernation. He was very depressed, and I think he kind of wanted to die.
yeah,
I really do. I just think this guy just was very sad,
that's tough.
and he very much seemed like an in-the-closet gay guy. Because like he said a lot of crazy shit. Like he was walking around with a camera. He goes, "I wish I was gay. If I was gay, it'd be so easy. I just find a guy and hook up, but I'm not gay." I'm like, "Are you sure?" Like it's like there's so many layers to that film.
Oh, really? I'm gonna have to watch it at some
It's
point.
great. It's a great documentary, and it also highlights how majestic these animals are. They're so amazing.
And delicious too if you get the right ones, eating the right stuff.
I've never eaten a brown bear,
No, I have not eaten. a
but
brown
black
bear.
bears are very good.
If you're eating the blueberries, just munching on those blueberries,
Yes.
it's
I haven't had that, but
Yeah.
Ranella says it's some of the best meat he's ever eaten.
it is. It
Well,
is.
what's interesting is that settlers in America in the pioneer days, they preferred bear meat and they shot deer for their skins.
Oh, interesting.
That's why, like, a buck. Do you know what a buck?
Yep,
a
dollar.
buck deer. It's $1 because that was what it was worth.
Yep.
One of those deer skins was worth $1, so they called it a buck.
Yep.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy.
Back then, that's a lot of money.
Oh my God! Back then, $1 is a lot of
Get
money.
20 of those, 30 of those, 50 of those, 100 of those.
You're fucking balling.
Yeah.
You know, the richest guy in the world at one point in time was a beaver pelt salesman.
I believe it.
In America.
I believe it. Yeah, there's a time. And those just like the stock market, the ups and downs in the markets for those things. Did you see that recent, I think it was in Kenya. I just saw it maybe yesterday, the day before. But the villagers out there killed a lion, an old lion. And it made the news, but not so much in the way that some of the others have, because this lion was eating some of their livestock. And they're like, oh, guess what? This is killing our livestock. That's how we survive.
Yeah.
So we're going to kill it. So they did. And of course, one asked more questions about, well, why, and why is there not hunting here? And if there was hunting, would that animal have had value? And then would there be incentive to keep those populations at a certain level and apply the science to it and make sure? But there's none of that. They just kill it. And that's how it goes, because these things are killing your livestock that you feed your family with. So it wasn't long for this earth.
That happens with elephants, with crops.
Yeah. Oh, they destroy a bunch of crops over there. So what they do, they kill them.
No idea what a farm is.
No, they're not worried. They're not
That's
worried.
just free
They just
food.
go through.
Yeah.
I've seen those videos, those pictures, but that's the problem about not putting the requisite time, energy, and effort into studying an issue, no matter what that issue is, and just making a snap decision based on something that someone with a lot of followers puts out there. All of a sudden, that's your position as well, rather than let me just do some study here. Let me think about this a little more, and now I'll make my.
Well,
my
it's sort of
decision.
like a woman attacking women for wearing bikinis. It's like what? Okay, let's talk about this. Okay,
You're ruining it for everyone.
Something wrong with that. And also, there's the thing about wildlife conservation that's very uncomfortable. And what's uncomfortable is that it really bothers us that the only way animals really have value in terms of these wild populations of antelope and gazelles and all these different things they hunt in Africa, the way they've made them thrive is by putting value on them to hunt them. And that bothers people a lot.
It does.
And I get it.
Yeah.
I get why it would. I mean, it would be nice if all these people that were animal conservationists spent as much money as hunters.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen
But
that
they
way.
don't.
Nope.
They just don't, especially in America with the Pittman-Robertson Act, where a percentage of all ammunition sales, of all gear, all hunting gear, and it turns into all that goes towards wildlife conservation. And it's the tune of billions of dollars.
Yeah, and Sportsman voted that in.
Yes.
Voted that in. That was a tax, self-imposed tax.
Yes, and a beautiful one, really.
Yeah.
It's one of the wildlife conservation in this country and the preservation of public land for recreational use and hunting and fishing and camping is one of the greatest things this country has ever pioneered.
Oh, yeah.
Because it really doesn't exist or hadn't exist until we did it in this country.
Out of necessity, because all those bucks added up to a lot of dead deer and a lot of population decline. And so, but now we have thriving populations of these animals, and turkeys also, same thing. And now they're all over the place. We have about 200 essentially that go between a ridge by our house. They come through every day up to this other ridge and then work their way back. And I was heading up to see Steve Rinella in Montana 2 weeks ago, and I took a video. He'd been out turkey hunting, didn't see anything, and I took about 200 turkeys just standing there, like in the road as I'm leaving the house. And right there.
Yeah, but you're in Park
Town
City.
turkeys.
He's always blasting shotguns in Park City.
No, they're town turkeys. They're very safe. They're very comfortable hanging out in the backyard. But I thought they were going to die this winter because there was last winter they were here the whole time because we had a very mild winter last year. This year it was not mild. It was like the largest recorded snowfall in Utah history, or Park City history anyway. And so they disappeared, and I thought, oh, they're gone, because it's the first time they've seen this kind of snow as well. But they came back about 3 weeks ago. They came back in force, 200 of them, right back like they never left. But
Did they migrate?
I think they found a barn somewhere with some heat and some feed. I'm thinking. I don't know, but it has to be, because I don't know if they can just hunker down for all those months that we got all that snow.
They
I don't
don't
know.
fly very far.
No, but they fly. It's pretty cool to see them fly for the first
Yeah.
time when you're not when you think that maybe they don't, and then you see them go up to roost and or come down, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But
Yeah, I've how far can they fly?
I don't know. That's a
100
good
yards
question.
or something?
Maybe. I don't know. That's all I've seen them fly, is in and out of these trees, so not very far. But who knows? Maybe they do.
What a weird bird could kind of fly. but not much.
It kind of glides, and they get up there and fly. Let's find out. Let's find out right
100
now.
yards. Right, it says wild turkeys
Look at
can
that.
fly at speeds of up to 40
Look at
miles an hour,
that.
50 miles an hour, but only for short distances. Usually limit their flight distance to about 100 yards or less.
Nice.
I nailed it.
You did. That right on. It wasn't 101 or 99. Like, you were on it. That's amazing.
Well, I've seen them. I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
them fly. I took a guess.
How much have you spent turkey hunting?
Only once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only went once with Ranella.
Yeah.
It's good, but my time is very valuable. And if I'm just hunting for one meal, that
Right.
bothers me.
Yeah.
I want to hunt where if I shoot, like I went with Ranella, we went down to South Texas. I got 2 whitetail and a Neil-guy. So
Boom.
I'm
good.
eating good.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, that to me, I like to eat those animals for months.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've got Neil-guy liver in my refrigerator for breakfast.
Nice.
It's like,
Nice.
I like that. That's what I like.
I'll tell you what was good. If you had moose heart, did you guys eat the moose heart when you went?
I did.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
In BC, yeah.
Really good. Like thinly,
Yeah.
slice it real thin and then fry it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Delicious. Oh,
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of liver for its performance. Like just as a food, as a superfood. It's so good for you.
well, didn't that liver guy? What was the liver guy's
The
deal?
liver king?
Yeah, yeah.
Steroids. That was his deal.
Because I was doing it, it didn't work. Just kidding. No, I wasn't. Oh, man, I'm not even working out anymore. It's like the workouts, the nutrition, and the sleep have fallen to the bottom of the priority list with everything going
Because
on.
of
It's
work?
just because
Yeah.
there's books to write and scripts to write. Well, not right now, but you reprioritize and focus on book 7, and then I have this nonfiction coming out, which has taken a lot more research than I anticipated. Which the first one is on the 1983 Beirut barracks bombing. So it's it's my first foray into the nonfiction side of the house. So working on that right now with an amazing guy, a historian, Pulitzer Prize finalist, James Scott. And there's really not the seminal work on that event yet. But as a kid, I remember just how impactful that was to me, seeing the Newsweek and Time and come across our dining room table and seeing those photos and knowing that I was going to go in the military, even at that young age. So I was always interested in insurgencies and counterinsurgencies and terrorism and special operations. Like I was focused on that from a very
I'm not aware of
early age.
that story.
Yeah, so October of 1983, there was 2 actual car bombs, one with the French paratroopers and one with the Marine barracks in Beirut, Lebanon. And there were some lead-up events. The first large one that really people noticed, the bombing of the American embassy in Beirut in April 1983. And then there's some newly declassified documents from the Reagan administration that talk about what was going on behind the scenes and who was advocating to put Marines ashore, who wanted to keep them on amphib ships, so a little smaller than an aircraft carrier, but take Marines around, who wanted to keep them on those ships in a little safer area out on the water in the Med. And then who made the decision? Well, the president made the final decision. And I talked to Michael Reagan about it, and he said that decision haunted his father until the day he died. And so they put Marines ashore in Beirut, Lebanon, and then there was a bomb that took out those barracks, and it was the largest Marine loss of life since Iwo Jima in World War II. And so I'm doing this research right now.
How many people died?
There were 300. We can look it up exactly, so I don't mess it up by 1 or 2. But it's so impactful and looms over U.S. foreign policy to this day. And there's an ending to it too.
307.
So, yeah, there it is.
241 U.S. military personnel.
58
French.
58
58 French, 6 civilians, 2 suicide bombers.
Yeah. So,
What is your take on what's going on in Ukraine? Are you up on it?
up on it? I mean, I'm up on it in.
Because I know you're writing.
I'm writing about it. I wrote about it in the second novel in True Believer, and I got that from someone who's also been on this podcast. Peter Zehan wrote a book back in 2014, and so I used that. I read that on my flight to Mozambique, where I was doing research for the second novel, even though I didn't have a deal for the first novel yet. I hadn't even turned that in, but I always knew I was going to write 2, because John Grisham, he wrote his first book, A Time to Kill, and couldn't give that book away, and then he writes The Firm, and that one takes off. Tom Cruise is in the movie, then they republish A Time to Kill, and Matthew McConaughey stars in that one, and we've had a John Grisham novel every year. So I thought back to that and thought, I'll at least write 2, and if both of them don't take off, then I'll maybe reevaluate my choices. So I knew I was always going to write 2, but on the flight over there, I read his book, Accidental Superpower, and that one very clearly predicts a Russian invasion of Ukraine by the year 2022, and that was back in 2014. He wrote that, so there were signs.
Peter Zion, was that on the ball?
To the year. to the exact.
He's a weirdly smart guy.
He's amazing. Yeah, he's been on my podcast, and he's been on your podcast, and I've read all his books.
He's so sure of what he's saying too. That's what's uncomfortable.
He's
like, how do you? You're not even hedging your bets.
No, and he's not. He doesn't hedge the bets at all. But he also, that's his thing. That is 100% his area of expertise and study. He lives it. He breathes it. It's not something that he just dabbles in. So read that book. Amazing book. So I incorporated that into my second novel. But now Russia actually did invade Ukraine. So now when we work on these scripts for the second season of The Terminal List, well, we have to figure that out. It's going to change, obviously, because they actually invaded instead of, like in the book, the hero, of course, wins the day. But when he talks about that and talks about population decline, very steep population decline in Russia, and gives the reasons behind it, and talks about the ethnic Russian population in Ukraine being the largest outside of Russia, and then he looked at how long you can field an army before you can't field that army anymore, and 2022 was that year. So in order to field the army at current levels, they had to invade by that time. And we really, this is going back to learning lessons from the past and applying them going forward as wisdom, because we really made that invasion inevitable by some of our decisions at the end of the Cold War in the early 90s, all the way through the 90s, and really set things up to make that invasion an inevitability.
NATO expansion,
promises. It's just... So I like to look at things through the enemy's eyes, which I did in The Devil's Hand, my fourth book. But I think it's important to look at things through the enemy's eyes, because it allows you to then make decisions taking that into account. And so with Russia certainly knowing what our response would be to an invasion of Ukraine, that's what I incorporated into this one. So if you knew what we would do if they invaded Ukraine, what should you do now as Russia to set yourself up? Success is the wrong word, but financially. So with gas and oil sales and contracts and futures with India and with China. So I work all that into this book. So it was quite the education.
What did you think about the blowing up of the pipeline?
Oh my goodness! There's Seymour Hersh that has a few articles out there on Substack.
Yeah,
amazing. People should read those before they just retweet something. But he is detailed in those accounts of where people are, what military exercises are going on that would cover for action, we call it, to allow the U.S. to go in and blow up those pipelines. So it's very, and now it's I think fairly established that what he writes in there is actually true. So it's incredible. So people
there's a video of Biden saying that they were going to put a stop to the Nord Stream pipeline.
And there was an assistant secretary of state, I think she was, saying similar things out there, and it's. Yeah, so when we go back and look at these things and don't apply any political bias to it and just apply common sense, that's the other thing we don't do. And it's Carl and Clausewitz, who wrote On War, said the most important attribute of a battlefield leader is common sense. George Marshall, World War II, said the same thing. And we neglect to apply common sense to a lot of these things, whether it's as a populace or our elected officials or military leaders. So there's a lack of common sense in the end, and a stark lack of accountability as well. So it's very therapeutic for me to write some of these novels, because I get to hold people accountable in a fictional sense that you couldn't do in real life.
Is it a lack of common sense, or is it a willingness to ignore consequences because of the financial interest or the political interest in what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, that's a huge part of it, and we can see a change in 1947. So when the defense establishment and the intelligence agencies were all reorganized in 1947, when we changed the Department of War to the Department of Defense, it became an industry. And it stopped being a profession of arms and started becoming a career of arms for senior level officers in particular. And at the same time, we start seeing a lack of accountability, because up to that point, we can go back to the Civil War and see Lincoln go through general after general until he got to Grant. And same thing in World War II. George Marshall went through general after general after general, admiral after admiral after admiral, until he got to those names that we all know today who led us to victory in World War II. And then for some reason, and that means that there were people in those positions before who didn't measure up. So George Marshall would give them a chance and maybe a second one, but not a third. And then they'd put somebody in place, regardless of rank, essentially. He would promote people into the rank they needed to be for those positions if they showed promise. And that's how we got to these leaders that we all know the last names of. And we lost that after World War II, particularly in Vietnam. Now we start seeing people not held accountable for mistakes. We certainly see it with Afghanistan. 20 years they had to prepare for this eventuality. 20 years. And then the best they can do is what we saw in August of 2021. And someone who has no touch points with the military, never read a book on military history, strategy, tactics, doesn't know anyone in the military, maybe even never seen a military film, can apply common sense to that situation and say, look, wait, it looks like Bagram here would be the tactically advantageous position, which it was. Why are we putting our junior level enlisted people at this gate, at this essentially a public airport in Kabul, putting them in a tactically disadvantageous position to get out of there after we had 20 years to prepare to leave? And once again, no one held accountable. And there's a great book. It's called The Afghanistan Papers by Craig Whitlock. And after 2 Freedom of Information Act lawsuits by the Washington Post, they got access to these classified histories of the war. And so they took these generals and admirals coming back and they interviewed them, and they thought these interviews were going to stay classified. And so what Craig Whitlock does once he got access to this is he juxtaposes what they said in private that they thought was going to stay classified to what they said in front of Congress. And they're 180 out from each other. And once again, no one held accountable. All those guys make rank, they fail up, and then sit on boards of defense industry companies going forward. And yeah, we saw that change 1947 onward.
You cover some of these problems in your books.
Yeah.
But how frustrating is it for you, and how infuriating is it as a man who's a veteran, who's served, who's been deployed overseas, who's been in these conflicts, to see this happening and to see no accountability and to see these poor choices being made over and over again that put veterans' lives at risk, put our lives at risk, and put the entire world in this state right now where we're genuinely concerned about nuclear war, which we haven't been since the 80s.
Right.
The fall of the Soviet Union was this great moment in history. We're like, oh, Jesus, we're done.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, the Soviet Union is now Russia. It's like they have elected leaders. Everything's going to be great. And
Yeah, no, it's tough because you lose friends over there. People lose arms, legs, in wheelchairs. They sacrifice so much, and they're trusting those senior level leaders to make good decisions, politicians and military leaders. And then they see what happens over there, and so it's very natural to ask that question: Was it all worth it? What were we doing over there for all these years, for 20 years?
Yeah.
So it's very natural to ask that question. And for my own sanity, I just go back to taking those lessons learned and applying them going forward in a way that honors the sacrifice of those who did lose their lives, who didn't come home, or who came home changed forever because of post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury, missing arms and legs. And my hope, and I hate to say hope, is that we can take those lessons and apply them to the next generation so they don't have to learn those same lessons in blood. But I guess I'm not hopeful because we have shown time and time again that we have a very difficult time doing that for some reason, and I don't know why that is, but it's extremely disheartening. And it also sets up that next generation for failure because you have these people coming up the ranks, and they see these generals sit in front of Congress, say certain things. You can go back to every single testimony from these guys, and they all say pretty much the same thing: we're making progress. We just need more money. We need more time.
And privately, what were they saying?
They were saying that this is a disaster. Yeah. And you can go back and look at these. And Craig Whitlock spells it all out. He has the transcripts in there. And there's one, and I forget who it is right now, an exact time, but it's around the 2009, 2010 timeframe where there's one senior level official who's in charge of Afghanistan. He doesn't even say anything bad. He's just kind of like, it's not going as great as we may have led you to believe. And then a few months later, he is quietly moved aside and somebody else is put in. So that tells everybody else coming up behind them that, hey, if they want to get this next star and they want to sit on the board of company X, Y, or Z, they better toe this line. And it's an industry.
Is that an issue where the amount of money that's involved in it now because of the military-industrial complex is almost, it's like you can't turn that back now because you've turned on that spigot, the amount of money is continuing to flow. These coffers are filling. These people are making so much money. To stop it now and to hold people accountable and to try to put an end to this chain of failure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a huge bureaucracy. It's an ecosystem that includes politicians. It includes military leaders, both in uniform and just out, sitting on these boards, lobbyists, permanent Washington. It's all a part of this huge infrastructure that is moving forward. And just like any company, you got to show profits.
It's just crazy that less than 100 years ago, Eisenhower warned us about this. Mm-hmm. At the end of World War II, when he's leaving office, he warned us about it in the 50s and said there is a military-industrial complex. And the crazy thing is that speech at that time aired on television. And people, remember it. They had a sense of it. But it wasn't until the internet where you could pull up that speech at any moment you wanted to on YouTube and just play his words, which is such an incredible resource. I mean, we have access to history instantaneously in a way that's never existed before, and we seem to be learning less.
I know. It's one of those
weird.
dichotomies that is it's very odd. And we all thought when you could carry the internet around in your pocket with that first iPhone, I mean, you thought, when we have a discussion and someone says, no, it's this, it's this. Guess what? We don't have to argue about it. We can look it up right here. And it's going to be great because we can solve all these arguments immediately. And what did it do? Well, it just snowballed into this thing where it divides us even further rather than someone saying, oh, look, I was wrong. Oh, yeah, it says it right here. Yeah. No, it just divides us even further. And of course, advent of social media, it's a tool. And any tool can be used for productive purposes or as a weapon. And we have weaponized social media for sure to divide. And who benefits? Well, politicians that need to galvanize bases, of course, and the social media companies themselves who have lobbyists in Washington who pay a lot of money to these politicians. And it's a whole ecosystem. And so being aware of it, I think, is the first step. So for our kids, I talk about it with them. And I always ask the question, how am I being manipulated here? Which is kind of a cynical way to look at things, but you kind of have to today. And then with the advent of AI, that's a whole another side of it, like figuring out what is truth and what is not and what's been made up and what podcast is real and what's not. It's a crazy situation, but I want the kids to know that even if they're following somebody on social media, like a person, that's an advertisement for that person and their life. And you can see time and time again, beautiful families out there, and they're showing here we are in Aruba or whatever, and here we are with our Easter photo together. And then the next week there's their divorce and there's abuse and there's all that, and it's like, but this whole thing was all a farce.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, so that's an advertisement, just like a company.
When I see someone doing something like that, I always assume that you're trying to sell me something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, come on, why are you trying to sell me your relationship so good?
Exactly. Well, how am I being manipulated right here?
It's one thing, it's Mother's Day. She's such a great mom. Okay.
Yeah.
But how many days a week are you doing that?
Right.
You have the perfect family, you have the perfect life, you have the perfect this. It's like you're trying to sell it to people instead of just living it. And it's a very weird thing that we're doing that never existed before, so there's no real roadmap of how to navigate it correctly.
Exactly. It's kind of like when you have a psychologist or a psychiatrist on, and they're really getting into your life maybe, or they're out there giving advice, giving all this advice, and then you find out that in the background they're a total disaster, and they're a crazy person. That happens more often than not. Sorry to psychologists and psychologists out there, but it's true.
Oh, it's very true. I mean, there's a lot of doctors out there that are extremely unhealthy. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in this world where there's people that are experts in giving advice, and they
I know, it's tough.
I think about that a lot when I talk. I'm like, man, better not be full of shit.
I know, it's tough. And how are you supposed to check all this? It's a full-time job checking on this stuff, and it's wild. But for the kids, it's the toughest. Like, our daughter just missed it. She's 17, so she got a little bit of it. But I think
she grew up with the internet.
She grew up with the internet, but she didn't grow up with the amount of input that these kids are getting now at age 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Exactly.
Yeah. She just missed that.
Yeah.
So our little guy, who is 12, is hitting that side, and they're pretty sly. Our little guy out there, he's a smart one, so he can figure out ways around the blocks and all these other sorts of things. So it's interesting time for parents, tough time I think for parents, and tough time for kids.
I think it's always been a tough time for parents and always been a tough time for kids. And these are just unique challenges that exist, but every era has unique challenges. Yeah. What I'm worried about is this stuff that we're talking about in terms of accountability with the military-industrial complex, and I don't know how that turns around.
I don't know.
Other than some catastrophic disaster.
Right.
And the catastrophic disasters that we're talking about are nuclear. And if there's a nuclear disaster, it's that Einstein quote, I don't know what weapons World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with rocks and sticks.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never heard that quote before.
I might have paraphrased it. I'm sure I did.
Yeah, it's good,
but it's basically what he said.
Yeah.
And that's what scares the shit out of me, is that, you got a guy like Putin who may or may not have cancer, who's backed into a corner. And what does he do if he thinks he's going to lose and he thinks he's going to die?
Right.
Yeah.
So the only thing I think about in that point is who benefits if you use even tactical nuclear weapons in a place like Ukraine. That's the area that they want. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't, when you look at it logically, maybe they can move some things around on a board and move nuclear weapons closer or farther away, or that sort of a thing, as kind of pieces on a chessboard. But if you want to invade a country because you want its population and because you want its food sources, then to nuke it doesn't really play in.
Unless they think they're going to lose Russia.
And that's with the population decline. They're essentially a few, according to Peter Zihan, they're a few generations away from same thing with China with the one-child policy. So they're in a similar situation there.
Japan has a giant population
issue too.
collapse issue as well.
Yeah. So it's tough.
It's nuts. There's so many. I mean, who the fuck would want to be president?
Seriously, that's the whole thing. Or just a politician in general.
Yeah.
Who's drawn to that? I mean, I'm sure there are people that are drawn to it for sure reasons and want to serve, and they started businesses and made money and want to give back, and they're concerned about the future of the country. I'm sure they exist, but man, people get into those positions and they sure do pick stocks a lot better than they did before. It's
across the board,
Yeah.
and that's not just Nancy Pelosi.
No. It's
All
a
of
whole
them.
thing. It's part of that established, part of that permanent Washington. It's part of the
scary.
ecosystem, and it's how it is.
That's the motivation, is that the access to information that allows you to pick stocks so good.
It's incredible. And in my first book, I talk about, hey, you show me a politician in Washington, and I'm going to show you a family member who has some sort of a lobbying firm or this or that. And then what are we seeing with the Biden administration? You're seeing some of that right now on the front pages.
They are just holding on to that as long as they can, because it seems like that is a crazy mountain of corruption.
Yeah, and I don't think it is only them.
I want you to imagine if that was Trump.
Oh, I know.
Imagine if Donald Trump Jr. was Hunter Biden, smoking street crack with Vietnamese hookers and all of it documented. It's not like rumors like the Steele dossier where they're like, Trump likes to get peed on. No, like this guy's getting foot jobs and putting it on his laptop and then dropping it off in Maryland.
Yeah.
But I'm skeptical about everything. I'm even skeptical about the laptop story. It's sort of burned into our brains, like that's what happened. But I think like 10 years from now, we'll probably find out that that's horse shit too. I mean, who fucking knows?
I don't know. I
They
know
might
a
have
couple
stole
people
his
that
laptop.
just put stuff. So I know a couple people that saw it right off the bat, and what it has been kept to in the news, from my understanding, is the professional side. So the people who saw it are people who didn't have a vested interest in showing any of the personal stuff, which some of it is out there, but and this is secondhand information. So, but there's stuff out there that is personally a lot more, I guess, damaging, you would say. That's horrible. But what they tried to stay to, for the most part, is the ties to
The corruption.
Exactly.
The corruption's undeniable. I mean, just the fact that he's just completely unqualified to be in those positions that he's at, making the kind of money that he was making, and doing it for Russia and China. And Ukraine.
Yeah.
What's
almost
crazy is
unbelievable.
that Ukraine was thought to be one of the most corrupt countries up until Russia invaded them, and now they're the darling. You got Sean Penn's giving his Oscar to Zelensky, and it's like, we are so fucking lost.
Well, that's what goes back to doing the research, and really, before you take that step, going back and making sure you're taking the right one.
But for the American people, it's almost like there's too much research to do. You don't have the time. For the average person that wants to, if you have a conservative position or a liberal position, it's like, boy, you have to trust in these fucking jackasses that are running the country to be steering you correctly, and they never are.
No.
They never are.
It's so tough.
They lie about anything that's going to damage their party. They lie about anything that's going to damage their positions or anything that's going to contradict what they've said in the past.
It's crazy. It's great, and I talk about it in most of the books. I weave it in there. So it's not. I don't think it is just reserved for one party, but we're divided along these lines.
Yeah.
And but who does it benefit? Certainly not the citizenry. Certainly not us. It doesn't benefit us to say just side with your side because it's your side without even thinking. And that's the position we're in right now, unfortunately.
Well, it benefits the people who make the most money, which is so terrifying. And then you see these politicians that just they benefit from benefiting those people that make the most money.
It's an ecosystem, and
It is.
It's so huge right now. Then you undercut confidence in voting systems. So that's in there now. And then you have, let's say, going back to Hunter Biden laptop, you have 51, 52 intelligence officials who signed some letter that's now shown that they were coerced into signing this thing, but they signed it for a reason to give their candidate, the establishment candidate,
Yes.
a talking point in a debate, and that undercuts everyone's confidence in those institutions anyway. And it was always a little shaky, your confidence in an intelligence service, just in general.
Yes.
People
Particularly
doing
after
something in
the
secret.
Trump administration attacked them for 4 years. The Trump administration attacked the intelligence community, and then what does the intelligence community do? They come out and lie about the Hunter Biden laptop. It's like, hey guys,
And that just undermines all of our confidence in these institutions.
Yeah.
And the FBI, same thing. Just huge issues there. And then it goes down to the local level and local level politics as well, with police departments and mayors and all the rest of it. So it's, it's endemic throughout the whole system, unfortunately.
how does that ever get corrected?
That's the question.
When I have conversations with my kids about politics and life and stuff, it's like, my young kids, I'm talking, not my oldest is 26. When I'm talking to my 12, well now 13 and 14-year-olds, and 15-year-olds, when I'm talking to them, like they're at this point where they're going to be graduating from high school in a few years. They're going to be going to college. They're going to be entering to the workforce and doing stuff. What do you tell them about this insanely corrupt system that's supposed to be the controlling operating system of this greatest country the world has ever known, this experiment in self-government, and it's just deeply corrupt.
It is. And so what we do is we go back and talk about all those sacrifices that were made so we can have these options and opportunities, in the hopes that our kids take a pause and actually become part of the solution and respect what has happened in the past, so that we can be this country we are today, even though we seem to be pretty good at destroying ourselves from the inside out right now. We did have a civil war, and at the end of that civil war, we did manage to come back together. So that gives me hope. Right there.
Took a long ass time.
It took some time. There were people that didn't want it to happen.
A lot of murder in the Appalachians.
And we didn't have social media.
Yeah,
we didn't have this tool that you
Yeah.
could use to continue to divide. So I often wonder, after the Civil War, if we had iPhones in our pockets and two sides, or even some other factions that wanted to continue to divide and either prolong or whatever it was, would we still have come back together?
I think social media is a problem, but at least social media has this, at least with Elon on board. Elon being in control of Twitter has this self-correcting option that's built in with community notes, where say if you are a politician and you tweet something and a bunch of people say that is not correct at all, Twitter will put a community note on and show all the real facts. And the Biden administration has deleted tweets because they've been checked.
Really? I haven't seen it yet. So you've seen it out there, the community thing? I haven't seen it yet. I try not to follow politicians.
The Biden administration they have deleted at least one that I'm aware of. I think it's more than one, though.
Really?
Yeah, it's like that's the good thing about social media as it exists. But that's why, all these people that are mad that Elon took over, you're just letting in these jackasses that were banned in the past. Like, the only answer to bad speech is better speech. The only answer to bad information is correct information. And if you ban that information, then they just find some echo chamber and spit it out amongst each other. And that's how you get QAnon. That's how you get flat earthers. That's how you get all these fucking loons out there.
So if you want to maintain hope for the nation, don't go into the comment section of Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube, because very quickly you will come to the conclusion that all is lost.
I don't know about Twitter anymore. I don't read anything about myself, and it's given me great sanity over the last few years. It's a giant factor, and I try to drill it into all these comedians' heads. Yeah, like, please don't read the comments. Just don't do it, because first of all, especially if they do a podcast. If you're doing this, like I had my friends Sarah Weinshank and Kim Congdon on, and after the podcast was over, I was like, please don't read the comments. Just please. We had a great time. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I think it was really funny. Yeah. Don't read the comments. But these girls are, of course they did. They're Dang it. They're used to small podcasts that might get 1,000 downloads or a couple thousand downloads. Now you got 11 million people that are commenting on every fucking thing you've said, and the only thing you're going to think of is the negatives. Yeah. And these girls suck. They're fucking losers and not funny. They're this, they're that. Like, those are just unhappy, bitter people. Who is this? Was it Michael Jordan who said it? I don't remember who said it. I've never met a hater doing better than me. Right. I don't remember who said it, but it's the perfect The perfect quote.
Yeah.
Like you've got people that are allowed to have their opinions. They're allowed to be angry. They're allowed to be bitter. They're allowed to say you suck. They're allowed to say you're a liar. They're allowed to say you're stupid. Let them talk. It's okay. Let them talk, but just don't read it. It's,
even if you have thick skin, it still gets in there.
It gets in there.
Yeah.
It gets in there. You know, that's why I don't read it. I don't not read it because it's not like I'm immune.
Right.
I read it because like it's natural human nature to look for threats.
Yeah.
And if you read 100 quotes that are great and then one that sucks, and that one person says this person should kill themselves and they're a this and a that and a that and a this and like, oh my God, am I that person?
And you can't engage. You can't go back because then it just
I see people that do, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're just throwing gasoline on it.
Exactly.
Get the fuck out of there.
How long did you look at comments before? When did you stop? Looking at comments?
For years, I looked at comments.
Yeah.
And it would make me feel bad. I didn't like it. I didn't like getting mad. I didn't like that's not true. Fuck them. And I'm gonna fucking come back. I'm gonna look at your Instagram. Look at you fucking fat loser. But that's just the way I try to explain it to people is look at your mind and your attention like it is bandwidth. And let's assume that you have units.
Yep.
You have 100 units of bandwidth. If you spend 13 units of bandwidth paying attention to social media critics and comments, that's 13 less. Now you only have 87 units.
Right.
So Sam Harris told me once that he was on a trip in Hawaii with his family, and he read something negative about him, and it tanked his whole trip because he spent his entire time crafting a response. I'm like, God damn.
Nope.
And he's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's a very smart man.
Yep.
So for him to fall into that trap.
Yeah, and we're all human.
Yeah.
And no matter if you're a special operator, people think you have this thick skin and you're tough. You went to Iraq and Afghanistan and made through buds or all that stuff. You know, for me anyway, it definitely hurts. But I try to get on there still and say thank you to people because I'm not quite. I can still do it at the end of the night. I'm exhausted, but I want to say thank you. But it also means I see the craziness.
Yeah.
And so I see that. I never respond to it, but I want to say thank you to all those people who grassroots, like before you were kind enough to invite me on here, before Chris Pratt texted about the show or posted about the show, before I was on Tucker. It was all grassroots. It was all somebody taking a risk on me as a new author, telling a friend. And so when people get on and say, hey, I love your book, I gave it to my dad, now he's a fan, I want to say thank you to that person. So I'm up late doing that, but it also means that I see the craziness.
There comes a point in time where you just have to post things and then say thank you in the post, but you can't respond to people individually just because it's just bad for your brain.
Yeah, it's not healthy.
No, and I mean, you're saying with special operators, but I see it with fighters. I try to tell fighters all the time, don't read that shit, man.
Yeah.
It's not, and some guys love it.
Really?
David Goggins fucking loves it.
Does he get in there after people?
He reads all the comments out to. He reads haters to himself, and he plays it when he runs.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's a different kind of psycho.
Wow, that's interesting. Is
that cheating then? If we can't listen to music, then that's cheating.
He just needs listen.
That's right.
That guy has no knees, and he runs 1,000 miles a day. I mean, whatever the fuck he has to do what he does.
That's interesting. I haven't done it in a while, but I used to go into the negative reviews on Amazon and then read those and kind of have a little fun with them. And when I went on Tucker, I read the negative reviews from the show, and that was fun because the Daily Beast they were just mean. There were some mean ones out there. Like the audience on Rotten Tomatoes was crazy high for a show. I mean, it was in the high 90s.
Yeah.
And then, but then the critics weren't big fans. But every single day we realized, and we're making that show, that we're not making it for critics. We're making it for that person who went downrange to Iraq and Afghanistan over the last 20 years. So when they sit down and crack a beer and sit on the couch and turn this thing on, that they at least know we put in the effort to make a show for them, that paid tribute to them, that was rooted in the realities of modern combat, and we put in the work.
You fucking nailed it. No doubt. And you nailed it on the show. They made that show so fucking gritty. And whenever someone makes an adaptation of a very brutal novel or multiple novels like yours, you always wonder, like, oh God, are they going to be able to really do? And they did, man. They fucking did.
Yeah, that's a tribute to Chris Pratt and Antoine Fuqua, who were from the get-go. They wanted this thing. They wanted to make it for the people who went downrange.
Yes.
And every single day we talked about that, knowing that there's going to be Hollywood hot sauce in anything. You got to do that. But anywhere we could root this in the realities of modern combat, we were going to do that. If we had to reshoot something or change something in the script on the fly, we were going to do that. And that's Chris and Antoine and the showrunner, David Agilio, and Max Adams, former Army Ranger, who's in that writer's room every day, and Jared Shaw, my buddy, who was there every day, who gave the book to Chris Pratt, and Ray Mendoza, another SEAL buddy out there doing the technical advising. I mean, they were all in, and you had Chris and Antoine and David DiGilio trusting those guys on set every day. So if one of them said, this is not going to play to that person who went to Iraq and Afghanistan, we'd change it right there. And that's pretty cool.
That is very cool. And, you know, at the end of the day, those people that were critics, they were never going to like it. They don't like that subject matter. It's not, you really, there's room for criticism, and the criticism should be reserved for people that actually understand what they're talking about. And you look, something like the Daily Beast, it exists. It's okay. That's cool too.
That's fine.
It's cool to shit on them.
Yeah, and it was fun to read it and have a good time with it on Tucker. I got so many people reaching out to me saying they love that, and we just had a little fun on a Friday reading those things, and just reading their own words back to them and having a little fun with it. So, so that's kind of a healthy way to deal with it, rather than looking at it and just trying to craft that response or like getting mad about it. Like, they're going to hate it anyway, and that's okay. That's not their thing. There's plenty of other things out there that they can love, and that's okay. We're going to make something for us here, and then that's what we're doing. We're taking that guiding principle, because I don't think Amazon will ever, none of those streaming companies will ever share their data. But they know exactly how many people watched every single show, when they changed the channel, when they got to an end of episode and didn't go to the next one. They have all that data. And that's the reason that we're doing a spinoff and a second season. Is because
What's
they know.
the spinoff?
So spinoff is there's a character, Ben Edwards. And so spoiler alert for those who have not seen it. We'll just give you 2 seconds to put the earmuffs on. So he's killed at the end. And so it's a prequel that goes back to show how he went from the SEAL teams to the CIA, essentially how he turns bad. That's played by Taylor Kitsch, who was just awesome. And that's one of the characters I thought was more fully developed than the character in my novel. And on the page, and then what Taylor Kitsch brought to it was just next level. So when we did the premiere in LA in June, and it debuted on July 1st, but we did the premiere in June, I came home, and for some reason I had a day without interruption. I don't know where my wife and kids were, but I was sitting in a chair that I would never sit in if I didn't want to be interrupted. And I wrote from the second I woke up all the way through the night until they got back, and I wrote a spinoff, and I sent it to the showrunner, David DiGilio, and he loved it. And then a couple days later, Chris Pratt called, and he's like, "Hey, I have this idea for a spinoff," and he pitched me on it, and it wasn't mine. It was not my spinoff. Mine was totally different, and his was this Taylor Kitsch spinoff, a prequel going back in time a little bit. And I said, "Chris, that's amazing. Let's do that. That's a great idea." And so he pitched it to Taylor. Taylor was all on board, and then we put a package together and pitched it to Amazon, and they loved it. And so off we go to the races with this spin-off, which is more of an international espionage type of a show rather than revenge thriller, action thriller, conspiracy thriller like the first one. And it is awesome. And also, nobody can compare it to a book. So even fans of the book that look at it and say, this is different, this is different, this is different, I hate it, because there's no prequel. And then that leads right into the second season, True Believer, starring Chris Pratt. So we'll roll right into that. And things in Hollywood, as you know, can go off the rails at any time. So I always have, that's just how it goes. But right now, we're working on those scripts, we put the pencils down about 5 days ago now, 6 days ago, 7 days ago for the writer's strike. But we're about at episode 5, and it's good. Oh, man, it's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so when was that supposed to go into production?
We were supposed to do it sometime in the fall, and or early fall, and start filming then, and then post-production, and who knows when they get it out after that. But international this time.
Have they made progress with the strike? Are they?
I don't know. I think they're picketing right now, so I think it's the early stages still, and there's so much to negotiate. I mean, I don't know, but I would think it might take a little bit with this one. I don't know.
When someone crosses the writer's strike, that's some dirty shit.
Yeah,
they cross the picket line.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody doing that yet.
I think Ellen did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I had a buddy of mine who was writing on Ellen.
Oh.
Back in the day.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
That's tough, because then going forward, everybody's like, hey, you're the one that didn't stand up.
Well, also.
Oh, well.
Everybody kind of knows now what she's really all about. And that's another one of those. Like, I'm so nice and I'm so sweet. And
interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So
just
that's
mean behind the scenes.
That's tough. That's weird when that happens. Like,
it happens a lot.
Because people ask me about you. People ask me, and people give me things to, as you know, people probably send you things all the time. People send me stuff. Can you get this to Chris? Can you get this to Joe? Can you get this to Tucker? Type things. And you're like, so that part is kind of strange. But people always ask, what those people are like, and you are you, how could you fake this 5 days a week up on stage? There's no way.
You can fake a talk show though.
I guess because you have an hour, right?
Well, not only that, you don't know the people. You're not having these uncensored conversations for hours. Yeah, it's very edited, and it's also like there's an audience there, so you're playing to the audience, and you're well aware, and there's stuff that's filmed, stuff that's not filmed.
Yeah.
And, you know,
It's
Chris is
interesting.
the same thing, man. Chris is so, you know, me and my wife were having a conversation about like actors. You know, and she was talking about someone that was very annoying. That, and I said, yeah, I go, it's rare, but it makes you cherish the ones that are cool, like Scott Eastwood. Scott Eastwood, if you didn't know that he was Clint Eastwood's son, if you didn't know he's a big movie star, he's like the fucking nicest, most normal, no ego having guy, just friendly and normal. You talk to him, he's not needy. He's just like right there. He's a great guy.
But unless you put two pictures of him and his dad, like from the 70s now, then that's an amazing resemblance.
Crazy resemblance.
Yeah, he seems like an
That's
awesome
some
guy.
strong genes.
That is. Those are good ones right there.
Those outlaw Josie Wales
not
genes.
bad.
They went
Exactly.
right in
That's
there.
the picture. That's the picture.
Great
But,
fucking genes, though.
Not bad.
I mean,
You know, if you had to choose.
good looking guy.
Not bad.
But
yeah, Chris,
him and Chris,
so nice.
They're the nicest guy. I ran into Chris once, accidental, just randomly in Hawaii with my family. He was on, I believe he was on his honeymoon.
Yeah, at Four Seasons out there.
Yes, in Lanai.
Yeah, we were setting some stuff up for him. We were going to get him a little house there. They decided to go with the actual hotel, but and we'd spent some time together in Utah. You and Chris out there. And that was the first time that I got to sit. So we'd optioned it before the book came out, so January of 2018, and we all met up in Utah in August of 2018.
Was
maybe
the book
September.
out when I met you?
A book was out for a few months. Yep, the book was out for a few months, but yeah, Chris saw it early because Jared Shaw, my buddy, gave him a copy because of a favor I did for Jared in the SEAL teams, which I just did because once again you want to help good guys, and he was getting out of the SEAL team, so I introduced him to some people in the private sector and followed up, and I forgot all about it, and he never did. So he called me when he heard that I had a book coming out. So a few months before it came out in November of 2017, called me and said, "Hey man, I always wanted to thank you for what you did for me." And I couldn't even remember what it was. And he told me what it was. And I said, "Oh, man, great. How's it going?" And he said, "It's going great, but I heard you have a book coming out." And I said, "Yeah, I can send you an early copy if you'd like." And he said, "Well, I'd like to give it to a friend of mine if that's okay." And I said, "Yeah, no problem. Who's that?" And Chris Pratt. So, and that's who I thought about playing the role when I was writing it, before he'd been in Guardians, before he'd been in Jurassic World. So he'd been in Andy Dwyer, Parks and Rec. And
You thought about him in chubby Chris Pratt?
Chris Pratt in Parks and Rec, but I saw him make the transformation to SEAL Operator in Zero Dark 30, where he had a very small role. So I thought, okay, I see this guy right here. Look at that transformation, and he seems like an inherently likable person on and off screen. So, and then I thought back then, I'm going to give Chris a chance here. I'm going to help his career along because it looks like he needs. This is me writing my first sentence of the book in Coronado, California, still in the SEAL teams, in a little office off our bedroom. But I thought of Chris Pratt, and that's because back in the day, everybody loved Magnum PI in the 80s, and because he was funny, but he could flip that switch, and he could get it done. In one episode, we talked about this once before. There's an episode where it's the first time on network television where a protagonist kills a bad guy who's unarmed. And it's an amazing episode. They had to fight for it, and they got it. And now it's a classic episode of 80s television. And so I thought about that, flipping that switch. I thought about my background in the SEAL teams and coming home to wife and kids and all that stuff and having to flip that switch. And I thought, Chris is the guy who can pull this off. He hasn't done something like this, hasn't been in action films yet. And so I thought of Chris, and then I thought of Antoine being the director. And because I love what he did with Training Day and Tears of the Sun and a movie called Shooter based on Point of Impact by Stephen Hunter. And I just loved Antoine's work. So I thought, this is the guy, and now we're all three executive producers on it and doing it. So,
do you ever wonder if you made that happen with your brain? Like, how much do you think you manifest things with your mind?
Well, it certainly didn't take up any of that bandwidth, worried about it not happening. And I think a lot of that comes from just knowing what I wanted to do from a very early age, serve my country specifically as a SEAL, and then write thrillers back from my earliest days. So I started building this foundation at age 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, reading all these guys like Tom Clancy and Nelson DeMille and A.J. Quinnell and J.C. Pollock and Mark Olden and Louis L'Amour and Stephen Hunter, all these guys back in the 80s who had protagonists with backgrounds I wanted in real life one day. So I read all those, and I just loved the magic in those pages and knew that one day I'd write those. But that wasn't like Machiavellian. I wasn't like, I'm going to read these today at age 12 so that one day I can write them at age 45. No, I just loved those books. And then I was studying warfare and insurgencies and counterinsurgencies and terrorism and special operations. So I had this academic study of warfare that's never stopped. And then I had the practical application on the field of battle in Iraq and Afghanistan. It all came together at the right time and place. So I never worried about not making it. I only saw a #1 New York Times bestseller on all those books I read growing up. I only saw those books like First Blood made into a film. And so that was what was always in my mind. So if I write this book, it's going to be a #1 New York Times bestseller, and it's going to be optioned by whoever I want to make it a #1 film. And that stuff happened. But I didn't worry about it not happening, if that makes sense. Maybe it's a little naivete, which seems to
sometimes
have
helps.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I didn't worry about the odds. I didn't. People love to tell you the odds. They're going to tell you how hard it is. What's your backup plan? You want to be an author? Oh, what are you really going to do when that fails? Or you want to be a SEAL? What are you going to do when you don't make it through buds?
Anybody says that to you, stop talking to them.
Exactly.
There's no benefit in thinking that way.
Negative. Yeah, you got to get rid of those people.
And if you do have a safety net, you might fall.
Yeah.
You know, you might make it, but you might fall. And there's something to that, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't understand the way reality works.
Yeah, it's that bandwidth because you're worried, you're thinking about those other things. Where for me, all my heart and soul went into the book, continue to go into the books, every single sentence. And for me, writing these kind of books, I don't have to go out there and find a sniper from Ramadi in 2006. I don't have to go find somebody who was in an ambush. I can remember what it was like to be a sniper in Ramadi or what it was like to be ambushed in Baghdad in 2006. And then my protagonist gets in an ambush in Los Angeles, California. So I go back and think of the feelings and emotions associated with that event that I was in, and then I apply those completely to a fictional narrative without any filters. So I don't have to interview somebody and then have those answers get filtered through other interviews that I've done or other movies I've seen or research that I've done and then go into the page of the book. It goes right from my heart and soul right into that page. So
that's pretty amazing.
So I think that helped as well and made it stand out to Simon & Schuster and makes it resonate with readers and resonate to Chris and Antoine because they both loved it and wanted to be a part of it, and now they're leading the charge on it and wanted me involved from the get-go all the way through from writing it to the being a part of the writer's room and as an advisor, and then learning how that went down, doing the casting, seeing everybody that came through wanting to be in it, and then through production and post-production, and then marketing and advertising, and then the premiere, and then negotiations for a second season and a spin-off, and being a part of all that from the inside I learned so much over the last couple of years. It was really cool.
Have you thought about writing new characters? Have you thought about making a new James Reese or something similar or some complete different ecosystem, some complete different universe?
Yes. So I love doing this. I absolutely love every part of the process writing this. So I'm going to write James Reese for as long as I possibly can. Do that, then have the nonfiction that I'm so passionate about with history. So that'll be coming out here in a year and a half. And then there's another thing in the works that got put on a little bit of hold because of the writer's strike. But I'll text you about it when it comes through. But there's some other things in the works that I thought would be done by now. But yeah, writer's strike, everything goes on hold for that. But there's some other things that will allow me to write some other characters and work on some other productions, I guess is the best way to put it.
So would it be
cool.
productions or would it be novels or both?
some other exactly both.
Yeah. So
we'll see.
There's a thing about getting trapped in the success. Like you have and also you have to have Chris Pratt on board. You can't recast.
No, I don't think so. He's the guy. I mean, they do. How many Jack Ryans have we had? We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 Jack Ryans up to this point. So that one survived, and people accepted that.
I
so
guess.
close, so close to the time that a book came out, maybe not. But Alec Baldwin and Harrison Ford were pretty close to those movies in the '80s. Really in early '90s. So there is that. But you never know how things are going to go.
It's like how many James Bonds have there been?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. That continues, and so there is there is that. There is precedent there. But the casting was really interesting because you see these people who you've grown up watching, who during that time it's kind of COVID. Well, it is COVID time, so they're doing screen tests, and you're seeing these people that everyone knows the name of, like doing a screen test, wanting to be in the show, and I'm like part of that. It was crazy. It was crazy. And then Taylor, of course, just knocked it out of the park when we saw the screen test with him and Chris. Like there was no question. Like Taylor is Ben Edwards, and Taylor is just an awesome dude. And he's so fired up to get to work. We're just texting on the way over here, and he's so excited to get to work on this next one. And he just elevated that character to a new level, and such a good dude.
Suck playing a bad guy though.
Yeah, but now he gets to go back and kind of like play around with it a little bit.
Yeah,
and we have to get great action sequences that are just next level. And Taylor's just such a good. He's one of those guys also. Totally normal, totally cool. You want to sit down, have a beer with him, have a whiskey with him, have a coffee with him.
Yeah, they exist.
Just an awesome dude. So.
It's just in that world, it almost celebrates people that aren't genuine.
It's strange.
Yeah,
it's strange.
It's a pretend business. It's a business of pretending.
Yeah, well, everybody in the show that I can think of. Jean Triplehorn, amazing. She played the Secretary of Defense. Lorraine Hartley.
Man, she's been
so
around.
Cool.
That lady's done some great movies.
Amazing movie, and so nice, and so kind, and so normal. But everybody, LaMonica Garrett, amazing. Who was in 1883. Right after our show, he left and went to do 1883, and such a good dude. Just a normal dude that you just want to hang out with. We went to UFC. We went to UFC together. We saw you at UFC in July 2nd when we went up there for the Terminal List thing. And Chris now has the blood-splattered Terminal List thing from the Octagon.
Oh, wow.
Framed. Yeah,
that's
it's
cool.
awesome. I got a piece of it. I got a piece of the blood from that night. But he
that's right. The Terminal List sponsored the actual event.
Yeah.
And it was on the canvas.
Yep. He's got the whole thing, and it's all covered in blood. And I have a square from it that's covered in blood. But yeah, he's got the whole banner, the whole middle part of the cage, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we shared elk camp together and hung out. He's fucking as normal as can be. If you didn't know that guy was a movie star, you would never guess it.
Yep. He's a big dude too, so he's it's hard for him to blend in. I think.
Yes.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
He's tall. He's a wrestler.
Good
solid guy. But everybody on that set was so cool. But it comes down to Chris and Antoine, to the leadership, and it comes down to them setting the tone at that, like Antoine at that strategic level. So up there as the director, executive producer, right there at the top, setting that tone strategically, and then Chris right there also as the tactical level inspiration for everybody on set. So everybody wanted to be there, and they're at the top of their games. And so many people came up to me on set, and they didn't have to, and they said they'd been on hundreds of sets in Hollywood, and they've never felt like this on a set before. And it was just something about it. It was inspiring. They wanted to be there, do their best work, and crush it because it was fun. It was fun to go to work.
Well, there's not a lot of guys like you that wind up being successful authors. It's a very small, tiny group of people that have had the kind of real world experience that you've had and then conveyed that into fiction.
Yeah, for me, it's very, very natural and very therapeutic. But also, I knew what I wanted to. I didn't wake up at age 45 and say, "Hey, can you make money at writing? What should I have been reading for the last 30 years in preparation for this?"
That's what's crazy. It's like your life was like sort of ordained. Like it's almost like it's destiny.
Well, I think it's my parents made reading a natural part of my life. It wasn't something that was forced upon me. It was just as natural as anything else. And just reading is what we did. My mom's a librarian, so grew up with the love of books and reading. So it's been as normal as having a phone, I guess, for a lot of kids today. It was normal for me to have books. I've never been without a book. I've never been not in the middle of a book. And when I finish one, I'd start the next one. I've never had like a week wondering what I should read next. I've never had that my entire life.
Do you read, do you listen rather to audiobooks?
Nope.
Always read?
Yep, always read, just 'cause that's how I grew up. That I love turning the pages. But audiobooks are the fastest growing segment of publishing, and I'm so fortunate to have Ray Porter, who's also an awesome guy, by the Shakespearean trained actor. He's been in tons of shows. If you look up Ray Porter, you can see just a list of shows that he's been in.
He's great.
And
He's great
awesome
as a voiceover guy too.
Yeah.
It's like he does so many different accents.
That's tough.
That's
I think about it now.
tough.
As I'm writing, I think about, well, maybe I should say that this person has some crazy accent in the first sentence so that Ray doesn't read and get halfway down the page and have to go back and then start with it again. So I do think about Ray as I'm writing and trying to make it write things that make sense for him. So
That's interesting.
to be kind, so I don't get to the end and all of a sudden say this person had some Rhodesian accent. So.
Has anybody ever come up to you and said, "Hey, are you writing about me?"
Nope, not yet. Not yet. But for the people that I write about that could be bad guys, I don't have contact with any of them.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah. So
let them hear about it.
Not yet. There's some, and it's we're all products of our experience and what we decide to study, and so there are maybe some characters in these books that might seem similar to some people at higher levels of government or military, and I kind of morph some things together and maybe make them worse or sometimes better than they actually are. So yeah, we're a product of our environments and the education we choose to give ourselves these days and what we pay attention to in our life experience. So all that ends up in these pages. So yeah, no one's come up yet though and been upset about it.
What about, one of the things that you deal with is like some very, very corrupt and evil people that are involved in military.
Yeah.
That are in management positions and executive positions that fuck over soldiers.
Yeah.
Like that's Have you encountered that in real life, or is that just your knowledge of that?
Well, we all saw it with Afghanistan, so so there is that. You see the process of people sitting on these boards after their time in uniform and then approving gigantic contracts for these companies that in positions that they were just in prior, where they had that chance to approve, and now they're on this board. So that's just a part of it. And then I saw people get scapegoated for certain things in the military to protect others higher up the chain. And, that's just kind of how it goes. I think it's any big bureaucracy, really. But I think it's been a part of just the human experience from the beginning of time, just like violence. What I do hear from people is the violence part. Some people like that, and like is probably the wrong word, but they recognize that violence has been a part of the human condition from the beginning of time, and they like that I don't pull any punches in the pages of these things. Some people hate it. They like a sanitized version of violence, and there's plenty of that out there, and that's not me. So for me, it's all about the story, and I never look at let's say reviews, talking about negative comments before. I never think about, what's selling right now, or I've never had even my publisher, and I didn't know going in like what was going to happen with agents and publishers, and if they were going to say, okay, we have this, next time can you lay off on this, or can you do this a little more because this is selling right now?
Yeah.
Or never even a hint. I've had complete creative control on that side, which is different than screenwriting, because in screenwriting you have a team. And all those scripts and outlines, they go all the way up to the top of Amazon and back down with notes, and then you incorporate those, or you argue and come to some sort of an agreement or whatever it might be. But team-oriented on this side, only me on this side. And I love that my publisher and agent have never hinted at doing anything differently, because if it fails, it's all on me. I can't say, man, I knew I shouldn't have listened to my agent, or I shouldn't. And my only vision of agents is it was Californication and Entourage. Like, I had no idea. I didn't know any agents. So that's what I thought agents were, and that's not my agent, and she doesn't give any input into what I do.
That's very fortunate.
Is it different than that in most people's experience? Like, how many agents have you had over the years?
I've had a few agents, but I've had the same manager since I was an open micer.
Do you have to have an agent now, or is it just a manager?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to, I guess. I probably could do everything with a manager, but I've had the same agent since 2007, and I've had the same manager since 1991.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, my manager found me when I was a beginner.
No. When did you get to L.A.?
94.
94. Oh, geez. So before.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
No way. Are they an LA-based person, or are they
New York-based?
Okay.
Yeah.
And still with
one of them's LA-based, one of them's New York-based. But yeah, I've had the same people forever, and fortunately, they get me. But that's the thing
awesome.
that you can run into the wrong. Like in Hollywood, they're notorious for taking things that are very successful and fucking them up because they have their input on it. I mean, that's what they did with the Chappelle Show. When Dave Chappelle was on top of the world, the executives at Comedy Central fucked that whole thing up.
Really?
Yeah, they were telling him do this and do that, and you can do this and stop saying this and stop doing that, and he was like, fuck this, and he went to Africa and quit the show.
I remember.
He was famous and didn't do stand-up for years for money. Like literally would show up in Seattle. He would bring a microphone and like a portable speaker and just do stand-up in the park.
No way. I didn't know that part. I remember when he quit the show and went to Africa and came back, and it seemed like he was gone for a decade almost.
He was gone for a long time, and he just was thinking about things, and trying to figure out what he was doing, and just didn't. I mean, the kind of integrity that he had to walk away from, I think it was like $50 million.
Crazy. At that time, was it like a record-setting type of a deal?
Record-setting. Giant. It was the biggest show on cable. It was huge, and it only did 2 seasons. It's, to this day, I think, the best sketch comedy show that's ever been made. Yeah. And he walked away from it because they fucked it up.
Man.
If they just left him alone, if they were smart, they're like, have fun.
Right.
Like what they do at South Park. Just, we'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
Go have a good time. You know what you're doing.
There'll be some controversy every now and again, but
of course.
That's just how it goes.
But controversy with who? People that weren't fans anyway?
Right.
I mean, it was so funny. The bottom line was it was really, really, really funny, and they came in and they made it no fun.
Yeah. Our little guy just got into it. He's watching them all right now.
So good. Clayton Bigsby. The blind white supremacist that doesn't know he's black.
The whole thing is genius. I mean, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's so different also. It's also so different. It's not safe.
So good.
You know?
No. It's so good.
Which is fantastic.
But they wanted to safeten it up a little bit. And they started fucking with him and talking to him about it. And he just felt awful. And, he's a man of integrity. And he just said, fuck this.
Man.
But they ruined it. The executives ruined the greatest sketch comedy show of all time. And they got one of the greatest comedians that's ever walked the face of the earth to walk away from his own show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
They can fuck it up.
Yeah.
They can get in there, you know.
And what a genius. I mean, his stuff, oh my gosh. It's just so great. It's so fantastic.
He's awesome. He was out here week 1, the second week that we were open at the mothership. He came by.
Awesome.
And he christened the little room.
Oh, it's so awesome. That it looks so amazing. I mean, everybody listening to this has obviously watched the video and seen that drone go in those doors and take the tour of that whole place right before the day you opened, I think it was.
With that rant, the Bill Burr rant, which is like the perfect rant to have over it.
So great. Perfect.
Yeah.
That guy, I love listening to that guy. It's so funny.
Yeah, and that rant was just so perfect for that video and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, you guys are crushing.
It's turned Austin into like the comedy capital of the country. It's amazing.
I remember you telling me about it beforehand, you know, and I was like, oh yeah, you came to the right place when you left LA. I remember you looking at a couple different places, and I think you chose. Well, I know you chose the right spot to come, and then to build this, what you built here, is so inspiring and so cool. But that one, when I saw that video, I was like, oh, because you told me about it like a year in advance, a year and a half, whatever it was, and I was so excited when I saw that video, and I texted you about it, and that was just awesome. I'm just so fired up that is here. I mean, it's a destination. You made this a destination for comedy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's almost surreal. Like when we're there, Tony Hinchcliffe and I, we're there sometimes. We just go, how the fuck did we do this?
Seriously.
I can't believe we did this. Like it really worked. And it was such a weird gamble because you had to leave. I left LA in the middle of this Spotify deal, this enormous deal, and they were like, "What the fuck are you doing? You're going to go to Texas? How are you going to get guests? How are you going to do that?" You know, it was like there's so much to it. Like, how do you do this? But I was like, I just like I have a compass. Like it's like that way, go that way. And
have you always had that?
Yeah. I'm a risk taker. Like when I feel like something is the thing to do, you should take a risk.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, I think that's a giant component for success. You cannot play safe.
No.
And there's sometimes where it seems counterintuitive, and other people are going to think it's a terrible idea, and you got to not listen to them.
Yeah.
You got to be able to just jump on it.
Yeah, we call it in sniper school a bold adjustment. So you have a certain amount of time on that line, and you have, especially if you're doing something with like an old M14 type of a thing, where you're starting out and you're doing these clicks on your scope and on your elevation, and like bold adjustments, gentlemen. I remember them walking down the line saying that. So you're not like taking a tiny click because they've got to get people through this course or get them out of the course or whatever it is. So bold adjustment, okay, went there, boom, halfway back, bang, you're on. Instead of these little tiny, very safe, tiny little adjustments that keep you on that line for another hour.
Yeah.
No, bold adjustments is what they told us. So that's what it sounds like here. And yeah, man, it's awesome. I can't wait to go and check it out. It's
I think it sounds crazy, but I think the universe rewards that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. Otherwise, you just have a safe. I mean, you get one shot.
Yeah.
One shot at life.
Yeah.
And one shot to, well, you can learn from successes and failures. So why not learn from them and take some risks and do it? Because you're not coming back. Well, maybe. We don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Maybe you're just doing it over and over and over and over and over again. And that's one of the reasons why I'm willing to take these chances.
Maybe.
It's because I've fucked it up before. And I know, nope, now's the time to get moving.
This is your 500th time
like,
going through this.
Remember when you stayed in L.A., that last life? Let's get the fuck out of there.
Time to go.
Let's not be depressed.
Yeah, because the first time I came out was LA, and that was a crazy time to come out because that was COVID. So the book hit the New York Times list, and then you texted, and I jumped in the car and drove on out, and there was nobody on the roads. That was crazy. That was weird. Late April, early May of 2020. Yeah. Nobody on the roads, nobody on the 405. Like that was super weird. Yeah, and then we got to talk about COVID on the thing, and I remember it was still a time when the Wuhan lab was conspiracy theory stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I remember we talked about it. I didn't put it as eloquently as Jon Stewart did when he talked about the Wuhan lab coronavirus thing and the Hershey, the bit where he does on, hey, if there's an outbreak of chocolatey goodness in Hershey, Pennsylvania, you might want to look at the chocolate factory. That was genius, but we did talk about it. And at the time, that was conspiracy theory craziness. And I was like, well, there is a lab there. So if I was a detective in any big city in the United States, I'd probably call that a clue. Well, you'd want to look into it.
You should look into it. And also, how did that become a conspiracy theory? I mean, what fantastic level of manipulation and propaganda did they impart on the United States that was a conspiracy theory? That a respiratory coronavirus lab in Wuhan, China, definitely couldn't be the place.
It's like a block away.
Yeah.
It's certainly not that place. It could be anything else. We're not sure, but it's certainly not the coronavirus lab a block away from the outbreak. Like, looking also, back on it, what really?
At the time, I had been very fortunate to be friends with people that actually understood viruses and actually understood the fear and cleavage sites and the way that viruses normally jump from an animal host to a human, the natural spillover.
Yeah.
And there's so many different factors that pointed to the idea that this is a gain-of-function research project that went wrong. And that's what it was. And there's still people out there that deny that. Mm-hmm. That one little guy, that little fella, that little Anthony
little guy?
Fauci fella.
Yeah, you see.
There is
Little guy.
no evidence. That little fucker.
But that's the manipulation part, where as a populace, we have to realize that we are being manipulated in many instances. And
Not
we
only
just
that,
ask
but that
question.
one guy's been manipulating people that way his entire career. Did you ever read the Robert Kennedy book? The
No,
Real
it's on my
Anthony Fauci?
list, but I have not.
Holy shit.
Pretty good. I need to read that. So these days, I read for people coming on the podcast. I've read every book for people that have come on thus far. I don't know if I'll always be able to. But I think some of those books would have fallen to lower on the priority list if they weren't coming on the podcast. But
Right.
some of those conversations that I've had in the books I've read have made it into the pages of the novel. So there's all this overlap to include this one. Brian Mora has a book called The Able Archers, and it talks about a nuclear exchange that almost happened between the United States and the Soviet Union in 1983. And there was one guy in the Soviet Union, an officer on watch that night, who was not supposed to be there. The guy who was supposed to be there got sick. So this one guy steps up, goes in for the person who's sick, and he's the one guy who studied the United States, and he's an intellectual, and he's put in this time and effort into understanding the strategic kind of aspects of this conflict in the Cold War. And there's a launch from the United States, ICBMs, heading towards the Soviet Union. That's what shows up on their screen. And what he's supposed to do is launch back. And he has pressure from above to launch. It's the protocol, and he doesn't, because he's like, this isn't right. And it was a glitch in their system that showed.
Christ.
Yeah, and there was all these other things at play too. Korean Airlines Flight 007 that was shot down earlier. There's all these things happening that would lend themselves
Heightened
to
tensions.
exactly. So and those documents were just, I think it was, I might be off by a year or two, but I think it was 1999 when these documents were finally declassified. So well after the end of the Cold War, and but. Things like that. So I read that book and had that conversation with this guy, and he's a really nice guy, great guy, been in the intelligence world his whole career, and that made it into the pages of this novel. So there's overlap, but Robert Kennedy has not been on the podcast yet, so I have not read that book, but I've been meaning to read it. It sounds fascinating.
He was just on Russell Brand's podcast, and he talked about his uncle and his father's assassination. Holy shit. His recall is amazing. His ability to just remember all these different pieces that were in play, particularly with the JFK assassination and Lee Harvey Oswald, and the fact that Lee Harvey Oswald was a CIA asset, and that he had defected to Russia, but it was a fake defection, and that all the different pieces that were in place that you could point to. There's so much evidence. He's like, if we went into this, he said to Russell that if we just wanted to cover the evidence that the CIA killed JFK, he goes, this would be a 10-hour podcast.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, and it makes it. You haven't gotten to the stage in the book yet, but I don't want to give too much away.
Don't give it away.
Yeah, no. But you'll like when you get to the certain part, you'll be like, no way, because I think nobody is going to expect this part of the book to go the way it does. But point being, it takes us back to that assassination, and so crazy. Early 90s, remember, I mean, you had Oliver North on here, which is Oliver North's book's fascinating. But you have Congress mandating law that the United States has to declassify these documents by a certain date.
Yep.
And 2 administrations, after a visit from the CIA, neglect to do that, or they let some things out, but not everything, like is mandated by law all these years after. So if they're not involved, and they might not be, but they're certainly going well out of their way to make themselves look guilty.
Yeah.
Like really trying hard to make themselves look guilty.
But I feel like them making themselves look guilty is safer than removing all doubt.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, because we're not talking about. I mean, Tucker talked about it on his television show, and he boldly claimed that the CIA, killed Ken. But it was a weird way he did it. Like he said, someone told me, and he doesn't release that person's name. It's like the way Robert Kennedy Jr. talks about it on Russell Brand's podcast. It's like in
I'm gonna listen to that.
depth.
Yeah.
But it's just this holy shit.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, in most of my books, I make mention, and this one in particular, go back to the church hearings and the Pike hearings of the 70s that exposed some overreach by agencies in the federal government, particularly the CIA. But as it pertains to the Kennedy assassination, it is so strange. All these years later, they still walk into the Oval Office and have a private conversation and walk out, and all of a sudden these documents that are mandated to be released by law are not.
Yeah.
Like, so odd. But in this one also, so a friend of mine married into the Kennedy family, so I went back to Hyannisport, got to meet Robert Kennedy, I spent some time with Ethel Kennedy, and it was amazing. And that experience also informs, I think you've gotten to that chapter already where he goes to meet the old woman. And so that part inspired this book right here. And that was really cool to be back there and look at this chair. And in this chair, there's a little table next to it, and you see a picture of JFK watching the election results come in. And you look at the picture, and you look at the chair, and it's him in that chair right there. It's amazing. It was really interesting to be in that part of the world, in that place, with that family. But yeah, it inspired this.
Old history.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
But it inspired this, and I mean, who knows if we'll ever get to the bottom of that assassination? And it wasn't that long ago. Like when we were born, we thought it was a long time ago. Like let's say 1983 or something. 63 is a long time ago when you're a kid. But now looking back, everything's relative. It's that time-space continuum thing, whatever that is. That's a real deal. Time speeding up as you get older. And
sure.
It's I saw a meme the other day, and it said if Marty McFly went back in time today, he'd be going back to 1993 or something like that.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
Well, how about
like,
World War I was 100 years ago?
Crazy. Well, yeah, a little over, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's
essentially 100
that's
years.
nothing.
Yeah.
That's nothing. World War II, less.
Yeah.
Vietnam, much less.
Yeah.
Korea, less.
Yep. And Donnie Edwards, who has the Best Defense Foundation, he has a picture of himself with a World War I veteran, which is pretty cool. And so my daughter, who's 17, we went to Pearl Harbor and took 62 veterans back to Pearl Harbor for the 80th anniversary commemoration event about a year and a half ago. Last June, we went to Normandy. So she's on Normandy with somebody who is the first out of his landing craft storming the beach. And she's there on this beach with him. And he's 100 years old right now, hearing that story from him. And I'm getting pictures of them talking together. And so one day she'll say, I have a picture with a World War II veteran.
What percentage of guys died on that beach?
I don't know the exact numbers, but it was a lot, and then a lot when you think about the Pacific campaign, and they did that over and over again, island after island after island. And then those guys came home, and what did they do? They got back to work. They didn't complain. They built the country into what it is today. And that's a little different. It was a different time.
Different kind of human being.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys didn't even talk about it till just a little while ago.
It's just fascinating the different kinds of human beings that exist dependent upon the amount of adversity they've overcome.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why they started Outward Bound. They did this study, and they found, I think it was World War I. I might get this a little off, but the general gist is on track. And they found that people dying in the North Atlantic that were there, like treading water, trying to survive, trying to signal another boat, were the older guys were surviving, and the younger guys that should be in better shape, their whole life ahead of them, were the ones that weren't. And they thought, well, this is because those people haven't faced as much adversity as the older people. So they started this Outward Bound thing, get kids in the outdoors, have them do a solo out there by themselves for a couple nights, and put them in these positions that are uncomfortable. And so I think that's why that started. But there's something to that.
Isn't that the case with like ultramarathon runners? A lot of those, like Cam Hanes' age, like 55-year-old guys.
Maybe, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. But yeah, the younger generation, they think we're on an ultra marathon or want to make another TikTok video. I mean, it's a hard sell. That's a hard sell. I don't know.
That's an interesting thing in the world of fighting, because as fighters get older, they have more experience, more understanding, more toughness, but their body doesn't work right anymore.
That's tough, and that's it right there. So it's a privilege to be getting old, that's for sure, especially if you spend some time in a
but it's funny how
occupation where
nature balances it out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we had Cowboy come in the show. He had a cameo. He had a cameo.
Nice.
Chris Pratt got to put a tomahawk in his head, and that was awesome.
That's right. Yeah,
he flew in for the day, did that. It was awesome. We had a great time doing that. We got to go out. I spent some time with him also on the range out at not Sig Freedom Days, but they have this sniper course they do in Utah the last couple of years, and we got to spend some time together out there. And man, what a good dude. He was awesome.
He's
too.
the best.
And
and Cowboy insisted on falling a very specific way, right?
Yeah, he no stuntman, no makeup. Either. Cowboy doesn't put on makeup.
Good for him.
Yeah, exactly. None of this, going in and putting the stuff. No. And they're like, well, we have to have a double fall for you. Nope. He's doing it all. And you're like, who? Are you going to argue with him? Nope.
Yeah.
Are you going to put the makeup person going to no, I have to do this? Nope. they just back right off.
Yeah.
So he was fun to spend some time with, both in Utah with Sig and then on the set. So that was really cool to have a couple touch points with him over the last year.
Again, that's a guy who's overcome a lot of fucking adversity.
Yeah.
And that's why he's got that character. There it is.
There it is. Donk. There it is. Bam. Yeah. See, that floor isn't padded. That floor's not padded right there.
At least
That's
he
just
didn't
a
bang
floor.
his head.
Yeah.
I was worried.
He was not concerned.
No.
He had zero concerns about banging his head.
No. That
was a good
dude,
time.
he's one of the wildest guys I've ever met because the shit that he does outside of fighting, which is wild. Like, they were always trying to get him to calm down because he's always doing things like jumping jet skis and snowmobiles and
some of those videos.
just doing so much wild shit outside of fighting, which is the wildest fucking thing you could do as a sport.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, remember back in the day when Point Break came out and Patrick Swayze was jumping every weekend, like actually jumping out of planes, and they were trying to, with insurance, like trying to get him to not do that.
Oh, were they?
Yeah. So I remember that story from back in the day. And then what did we just see? Mission Impossible, whatever number it's coming up on now. Tom Cruise doing that jump.
He broke his ankle.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Well, he jumped on that bike off that cliff like a number of times. That wasn't one take. That was those videos out there that show him training for it and then doing it. And how old is he?
60.
Crazy.
Yeah, he jumped from one building to the next and shattered his ankle when he made impact. There's a video of his ankle crumbling as it hits the wall.
Yeah. And then he's like, well, for the next one, we got to up it. And I'm going to take this motorcycle and jump off this cliff in, like, was it Norway or something like that? But insane. I mean, amazing.
He's out of his fucking mind. Yeah.
You're not jumping out of planes, right?
No.
Yeah, you don't do that. No surfing.
No.
Yeah.
I'm fuck sharks.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
not interested in sharks.
Yeah.
I was reading this story about that woman, Bethany. I forget her last
Hamilton?
name. Yeah. She got her arm bitten off by a shark and then got right back in there. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So my little guy, or I shall call him a little guy, but he's awesome, and he's 12, and he hadn't been to Pearl Harbor yet. My daughter has, so we took him for his spring break. We took him out to Oahu and went to Pearl Harbor, and so we got to go to the Arizona Memorial, and then USS Missouri, and then up to Punch Bowl National Cemetery up there. But we got there, and he's surfing out there. We went with a family that really knows what they're doing surfing, and so we did that, and then we went on a shark dive at age 12. And, so we're going out there with these three. And now that, I'm the age that I am, these people are very young that are taking us out there that are shark experts. And we go out there and in a boat, and off you go. And they have a photographer there who's studying sharks at the University of Hawaii. And then you get the shark expert also studying sharks at the University of Hawaii. But they're like 21, maybe. And we zip down there, and they're looking and making sure there's no tiger sharks. And we go in, and we do this dive, and our little guys, it's just snorkeling, but you dive down, and they get the picture, and you're seeing these sharks, and you learn a little bit about them. And then we get back, and the same day we find out that on Oahu, somebody got chomped. So it was just about a month and a half ago. And some girl diving somewhere, not in Hawaii, but like in the Maldives or somewhere like that, also got chomped, doing the exact same kind of snorkeling thing that our little guy was doing. But I like how you say, if you're not going into the water like that, then you're not going to get eaten by a shark. It's like, it's just kind of like if you don't jump out of the plane, like then you're not going to burn in type of thing. And I'd like the jumping. Like in the military, I liked jumping out. I liked flying. I shouldn't say I like jumping. I did not like going to the exit, because that's when you're like, okay, here we go. You jump out, whether it's dark and you got all your stuff on or whatever it might be. But I like the flying around. So the flying around was very cool in free fall.
I saw a video recently of a guy who jumped out of a plane and forgot his parachute.
Ooh, that seems
experienced jumper too. You see that?
He was filming it.
No.
Yeah, he was filming it.
Yeah, filming other people and forgot to put his chute on.
No.
Yeah, it was like in the 90s, I think.
Way.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we have a couple of things in place in the military that at least would, prevent that, I think. So you have the jump masters, then they're checking all your stuff and making sure you're good. But the flying around is pretty cool. The pulling, not so much, because then you come, for me anyway, guys love it. But for me, when it came time to pull, I was like, okay, here it is. This is either going to open or it's not. And if it doesn't, then I have procedures I need to go through. And I got to remember those and all that stuff. And in my free fall class, 2 people died.
Really?
Yeah. The student and instructor ran into each other. Like,
oh boy.
head
and
to
they
head.
just
Yeah, we had one more jump to go, so we spent hours combing the desert looking for the bodies, and we still had to get back and jump again after that. So that was interesting. And then a buddy of mine burned in, amazing guy, such a great guy, Mike Bearden, just such a solid dude. Went through buds with him, and then he burned in right before they sent me to free fall. So
when you say burned in,
parachute malfunction, and then died. Yeah, hit the ground. But amazing guy, such. a cool person, just a solid human being. And then so like the next week they send me and like another guy who were his best friends to jump school. So that was interesting. But and then have 2 people die in your class, have to do the investigation. So then you're sitting there on base waiting for this investigation to be done for like a week and a half, and then you do your final jump. So it's not without its risks. That's for
definitely,
sure.
I think that's part of the excitement about it.
Maybe. That's why I asked Andy about it. He's not doing. I don't think he's doing it too much anymore. Andy Stump.
Andy's out of his fucking mind.
Yeah, I don't think he's done it in a while though. I don't think it's been a little bit since I've seen him do a base jump.
He'll do it. He's just doing them.
Was he doing base? He's jumping out of planes.
Just jumping out of planes still. Yeah.
Maybe not the base jumping. Maybe it's been the base jumping that's been on pause for a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
I
don't know.
Maybe concentrate on the coffee shop, and maybe not so much on
his
the.
fucking mind. He's out of his fucking mind.
Yeah, but it's cool. But it's man.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, like
it's a rough way to go.
That's tough. I mean,
well, he's doing the flying squirrel suit shit too.
Yeah, it's like Trevor Thompson, those guys who's been on here. Like, what is this one? Is this Andy? Look at him go. Yeah, they just jumped over. Yeah, look at that. Look at this. It's amazing.
That is wild.
Yeah, look at it. And the photo they got from this.
That's crazy.
7 jumps, 7 days, 7 continents to raise money for Folds of Honor. And look at that. That
look
is
how bizarre
beautiful.
the pyramids look in juxtaposition to Cairo.
Yep. I was there years ago, and I see that one right there in the far right. I climbed to the top of that one.
Wow.
And a long, long time ago, when it was all dark outside, I bribed some guards, got some horses, and rode out to that thing in the middle of the night, climbed up to the top, and then watched the sun rise over Cairo.
I got to get out there. I still have never been. I got to get out there.
It's a really cool place. And the same thing, Taj Mahal also. I went to the Taj Mahal years ago, and you think it's going to be gaudy, and you get there, and it is beautiful. It is just incredible to see some of these places.
I'm just so fascinated by the pyramids, though.
Yeah. How they made them.
Yeah, and also these insanely complex cultures that vanish. They go away.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
Right.
Like, what is that? And then this is the thing that I think about when I think about America today, that every empire collapses. And one of the things that Douglas Murray has talked about, and it's really fascinating to me, he said every society, when it's at the verge of collapse, becomes obsessed with gender.
I've seen that.
Which is real weird and not good for us, because if there's any fucking society,
it seems like we're overly focused on some of these things right now.
Yeah.
And so if let's say you're Iran, you're Russia, you're China, you're North Korea.
Look at these fuckers. They're going down.
Exactly. Yeah. You're a super empowered individual. You're a terrorist organization. You might just want to lay back a little bit and watch, because we're doing a pretty good job of destroying ourselves from the inside.
And I'm sure they're helping. Just
give it a nudge.
Social media. I'm sure there's one of the things they found out on Facebook was that 19 of the top Christian sites were run by Russian troll farms.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
19 of the top 20.
And
they're just saying wild shit and trying to start a holy war.
Just trying to divide. Oh my gosh. And then we get so we have aliens. We have some spaceships in here. I mean, in the news. Imagine that coming out in 1985.
Yeah. I don't know what to think about that. I go back and forth and back and forth. Part of me thinks some of it is real. Yeah. And part of me thinks a good percentage of it is probably like some black project that they're not telling us about, that is some insanely complex drone, an unmanned drone that has capabilities beyond what we think of in terms of conventional propulsion systems.
Right. No, certainly a possibility. A lot of those sightings were, in fact, the black helicopters. They're black helicopters, but they're training for overseas, and they just have to go to these cities every now and again to
or
do
stealth bombers. The B-52.
Stealth back in the day. Yeah, back in the day. Remember the 80s? There was a model of it. I remember I forget the model. Anyway, I built some old World War II planes back in the day, and I always see this stealth bomber that was like a interpretation from the toy company that made these models of a stealth bomber, and it was pretty dang close when they actually revealed it years later. So I distinctly remember that. But did you have the guy that is it a Navy pilot?
Commander Fravor.
Okay. Did you have him on?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, but 2 guys, Ryan Graves and Commander Fravor. Both of them were fascinating. Commander Fravor was the one that off the coast of San Diego in 2004, he encountered that object that went from more than 50,000 feet above sea level to 50 in less than a second.
Yeah,
they have no idea what it did. It was blocking the tracking systems. They got visual. They saw it visually. They have footage of it. They have video footage of it. Multiple jets encountered this thing, and when it zipped off at insane rates of speed, it returned to their cat point. So the place where they were supposed to go meet up later, it went there. I know where you're going, bitch.
Wild.
Yeah. They don't know what it is. They don't know where. They think there was something else that was under the water, that it was interacting with something that was under the water because there was ripples, like there was like almost like a submarine.
Jeez.
So whatever that thing was that they encountered, that man, Commander Fravor, who is so rock solid.
Yeah.
When you talk to him, he's not a loon in any shape of the world. He's just a fucking dedicated, lifelong pilot, military man who's just, his credentials are impeccable.
Wow.
And when he talks about it, it's pretty stunning. And also the attitude that a lot of the higher ups had, like they were aware of it, and that they talked to people on the Nimitz, and they were saying, "Yeah, we see these things every couple of weeks."
And those guys say that some of the things they saw were classified. Really.
Yeah, and then there was
wild.
Ryan Graves, who said that I believe it was in 2014 they upgraded all of their equipment, and then they started seeing these things because the equipment have new capabilities, and they're seeing these things that are 120 knot winds, completely motionless, just staying and just totally still. Which is like, how? No heat signature, no visual means of propulsion. They don't know what the fuck these things were doing. Moving at insane rates of speed occasionally, shadowing them. They try to find them. They try to catch up and they take off. They couldn't keep up with them. They don't know what they are.
That's crazy.
Something that was a cube inside a sphere.
Did those guys write books, or did they? I forget. Did one of them write a book about
I
it, or
don't
just talk
know.
about it?
I don't know if any of those guys have read a book.
Yeah.
But Commander Fravor, I first saw him on Lex Friedman's podcast, and then I had him on mine to talk to him about it. But it is a fascinating encounter.
Where did you get into UFOs and all that sort of thing?
Oh, I don't know. I think since I was a kid. It's just fun, you know, just because I think it's interesting. And then I got obsessed with the Roswell crash, and then, reading all these different books about it. But it wasn't until talking to people that have had experiences that really burns in your head.
Right.
Because you're talking you can kind of get a sense of people are bullshit artists. You kind of get a sense. The Bob Lazar one's the most bizarre.
I don't know that
Bob Lazar is the gentleman that worked on Area S4, Site 4, Area 51. He worked back engineering with this thing that they said that they had recovered. And they were trying to figure out how the propulsion system worked. And they brought him on. And they don't tell him what these things are. What it is like, hey, tell us how this works. And he's in this thing that's designed for something that's 3 feet tall. These completely smooth surfaces, this metal that they don't understand, this visual.
Oh, really? The metal, the actual thing. Is not,
they don't
just
know,
like in the movies, where like we don't have any evidence of this ever existing as an element.
What the fuck it is? There was different. He said the problem with it is that science doesn't exist in a vacuum. You need a bunch of scientists comparing notes and trying to discuss it, but everything was top secret and classified, so they couldn't do that. So they brought in people the metallurgy people, and they were not allowed to communicate with the people that were the propulsions experts.
Yeah.
They were not allowed to communicate with people who supposedly had some sort of contact with the biological entities. And then there's this amazing documentary that was just released recently called Moment of Contact about Varginha, Brazil. In 1996, there was a crash. And not only was it a crash, but there's a crash and these bodies. One of them was alive and injured. This soldier picked this thing up. They carried this thing to multiple different hospitals. They did autopsies on this thing.
What?
And then the soldier who encountered it died of a horrific bacterial infection that they could not describe. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know how he got it. And he got it from being in contact with this entity, supposedly.
What?
Oh, my God.
What's it called?
Moment of Contact.
Moment of Contact.
It's incredible.
That's insane.
What's incredible, too, is this one of these guys, one of the soldiers that was in this documentary, they bring him to the crash site, and this guy starts weeping, and he's talking about it. I mean, unless this guy's like the greatest fucking actor the world's ever known, the way he reacts when he sees this site, when he describes his experience, when they found this thing that had crash landed. And there's also documentation that the Air Force had flown a jet to Varginha and returned with whatever the fuck they caught, whatever they got there, and brought it back to the United States.
That is wild.
Jackie Gleason supposedly had an encounter with Nixon. That Nixon and Gleason were buddies, and they were drinking.
Really?
And
I did not know
It's
this.
a famous story that's disputed, but apparently...
Let's go with it, though.
Let's go with it.
Yeah.
Gleason apparently had said that Jackie Gleason and him were drinking, and Nixon was like, "You want to see a fucking UFO?"
No way.
Yeah, and he flew him to see wreckage, and they had frozen biological entities, and they got a chance to see these things that they had frozen.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So that must have been like early 70s at some point.
Something like that. And
That's
Jackie Gleason
crazy.
wound up having a house built in the shape of a UFO afterwards.
No
Yeah,
way.
that was for sale as recently as I think like a decade ago. See if you can find that
Where?
house.
In LA or something?
No, it's in upstate New York. But the house looks like a fucking UFO.
No
Like he had a
way.
UFO house built. Yeah, Jackie Gleason apparently was obsessed with UFOs after the fact.
No.
So this
What?
is yeah.
that
Jackie
looks
Gleason's
like a
UFO
cabin.
inspired upstate New York spaceship house.
No way.
Yeah. That was
Doesn't
his
that look like, and that picture makes it look bigger. Okay, that's serious.
Yeah,
oh,
it's
wow.
a fucking.
That's beautiful.
Oh, that's two different buildings.
Oh,
Oh, he has
the
more
first
than
one's
one
like
of
the
them?
guest house.
Top, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Small building.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, that's the
fucking
guest house.
thing.
The other one.
Wild.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So Jackie Gleason became a UFO freak.
Man, I'm gonna do that after this. That's a pretty cool looking house.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. Oh
Yeah.
my god,
Oh,
I
wow,
wish it
look
was.
at that.
I wonder if it's still for sale.
That's
Entrance to
amazing.
the mothership. Woo!
I'm gonna talk to my wife about this when I get
Yeah.
home. This is serious right here. Well, now you have this SIG Spear. So there's a lot of UFO stuff on this SIG Spear. So maybe this should be reserved for taking out the aliens when they come.
I don't want to take them out.
Well, if they attack you.
Listen, I don't think they're going to
attack.
attack.
If they attack.
If they do attack, I think they could render you useless almost instantaneously.
But them too. They're kind of like, why wouldn't they just sit back and watch?
I
Like,
think they're
they're going to pass right by.
If I had a guess, I mean, just the wildest of speculations, I would guess that every civilization reaches a point of technological proficiency when they're also dealing with these territorial, warring tribes
Yeah.
where they have the ability to literally destroy the earth. And that if this is a natural course of progression for intelligent beings, they get to this point, there's a transition where it gets very dangerous. And if I was from another planet and I was monitoring this, I would be there to make sure that they don't launch. That they don't, and that's the theme of the Mothership Comedy Club. Is that the rooms are called Fat Man and Little Boy. And the reason why the rooms are called Fat Man and Little Boy is because that is a specific moment in UFO folklore when the aliens start arriving. After the detonation of those bombs, that's when you start seeing this massive uptick in sightings.
Really?
Yes. And interactions with fighter pilots and these different military bases that have nuclear programs where the bases get shut down and all the power goes off. Yeah, there's like,
That's wild.
yeah, it's heavy stuff. Because if you think that they are watching, that would make the most sense. That they see that we have nuclear power, we have the ability to blow ourselves up, and we detonate two
we did it.
bombs, and then they're like, okay, let's go monitor these assholes.
Let's go make sure that they don't do anything that's going to affect the
Seems
rest
like
of the
only
universe.
one country right now has them. Let's fucking specifically concentrate on them. And then they have sightings in the Soviet Union when the Soviet Union has the capabilities. And
No
yeah,
kidding.
there's a ton of documented sightings and these encounters that happen. And then
So
there's
beforehand,
also
there's not really anything.
very little, very little,
Really?
very well. I'm sure they've probably been visiting us if they do visit us.
Yeah.
I would imagine they've been visiting us forever. Like, look, they've got engines. Look, they've got guns. Look, they've got this. You know, it'd be fascinating to watch. Like, look at these territorial apes with nuclear weapons. Like, it's the time to watch.
Right now, they're probably just sitting back,
Yeah.
popping that popcorn and being like, oh, man,
Well,
it's
as
getting interesting now.
We're getting closer and closer to our fucking inevitable demise. Like, that's when the sightings are ramped up to the point where the Pentagon has to start talking about it.
And they are.
Yes.
In front of Congress.
Yes.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
But no one pays attention.
No one pays attention.
It's like, let's go back to, TikTok and Instagram.
Well,
and
I mean, they kind of pay attention, but it's not. There's nothing that you could fucking put your fork into.
Right.
You know, it's like, what is it?
Exactly.
You know, like, why are they telling us about this? That's also, there's a lot of cynicism when it comes to like, why is the government telling us about UFOs?
Like a distraction, you mean?
But what is it? Like, what are they telling us because they really have this information and they want to slowly leak it out because this is an inevitable contact moment and they want to prepare civilization? Or is it just horseshit? Is it just they're distracting us and this is how they, institute this drone program where they have this, anti-gravity device and they can move at insane rates of speed? I don't know. I mean, it's just guesswork.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You get to hear directly from these guys who've actually seen it, experienced it.
Yeah.
Hang out and talk with them for a little bit. Oh,
I've talked to quite a few now, quite a few that have seen these things and had these experiences. But the Bob Lazar one is uniquely compelling.
All right.
Uniquely compelling because Bob is without a doubt a brilliant guy, and he was a legitimate propulsions expert who it's been proven he worked at Los Alamos Labs, and they tried to hide that. They tried to lie about that and say that he wasn't, but he's on the employee roster. He has an intimate knowledge of the facilities. They took him. George Knapp took him on a tour of Los Alamos. He knew where everything was. He knew the people there. They knew him.
Wow.
Yeah, it's wild shit, man. Because if he's telling the truth, he says is not one that they've recovered, but multiple, and that one of them they think is really old, and they got it from an archaeological dig. They think that they recovered this thing in the ground.
That's movie stuff. I mean, you see that in
Yeah.
movies, and we all watch it in movies and think it's science fiction, but there's a lot of science fiction that has come to fruition. From submarines to going to the moon to also space travel in general, flight, just flying.
Sure, all of it. Every
and we're just like
Buck Rogers.
no big deal. But I remember we got back to Coronado, which is one of the like SEAL hubs. Virginia Beach is the other. We're in Virginia Beach, went back there, and I think didn't you do a bit on flight when you're like about when internet first became available on a flight, and you're like people first time a Southwest flight, whatever it was. Hey, we have internet for the first time on this flight. And here's the password for your internet thing, and a guy opens it up and whatever, and opens it up, and it doesn't work for a second, and he slams it down.
Oh, that's Louis C.K.
Oh, is it?
Louis
Okay.
C.K. had a joke about that. Yeah. Fucking piece of shit.
Exactly. You're flying through the air.
Yeah, literally.
Like,
And
look around
you're
and be
getting the internet
thankful
from space.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But instead you're like,
Garbage.
It doesn't work. Yeah. What the hell's going on here?
That's people that haven't had to develop those things that don't appreciate them. I mean, how many people get mad their Wi-Fi cuts out in their phone?
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it's just...
And it adds that level of anxiety to your life, and you just got to be, I mean, it's tough. You got to figure out how to manage that. Just like these negative comments we were talking about. So, like, I won't go into the comments on this one. I mean, imagine what people are going to say about UFOs and everything else in the comments here.
I think people that listen to this podcast love UFOs. It's just, it's such a fun thing.
These are the people?
It's such a fun thing to be excited about. I mean, and it might be the thing that could save us from demise. If we really are on this path of mutually assured destruction with Russia and with China invading Taiwan, which seems also inevitable. It's terrifying stuff. And
also something in the pages of this novel. I think you've got. Yeah, you did get there yet. There's the sentence about it in the earlier chapter. So I try to just things that are on my mind work their way into the pages of these things as well. So China, Taiwan is in there. Ukraine is in there, of course, and then there's some other things that'll be a surprise to people in these pages. But for me, it's a great outlet because I get to think all these things that I'm thinking about or worried about or whatever else. I get to weave into these pages and think about them alone with no interruption. Well, most of the time. There's some interruptions in our house with 3 kids, dog, and everything else going on. But it's fantastic. I mean, I actually enjoy the interruptions because I know when they're gone, I'll miss them. I'll miss those interruptions,
Yeah. Well, that's great, your ability to see that. Because sometimes it's hard for people when you're in the middle of things to appreciate it.
Yeah, you're building, and you can be solely focused on that task at hand. Like in the military, that pendulum, I mean, it has to be on the side of the team because you're taking these guys down range. Your life is in their hands, so you have to be as prepared as you can possibly be to make the best decisions under fire you possibly can. But guess what that means? That pendulum is not on the side of the family. Which is over here.
Right.
And so they're doing all those other things. So you have to have a very supportive family that understands that, hey, you're going to Iraq, you're going to Afghanistan. Your best friends are in that trench with you to the right and the left. And so that pendulum has to be over here. You owe that to them, their families, the country, the mission, the team. But once you get out and, can start build. But it's about any business. You're building and you're solely focused on it, and your family's over here, and sometimes that does take a back seat when you're building. But for me, I know that I'm going to miss those times. I'm going to miss all those interruptions in a few years here.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I miss my kids are teenagers now, but I miss them when they were little kids. It was just the videos you could watch.
I know, now you can
go
back
on your phone.
And Apple puts it right there. They put those little memories or whatever that pop up, and things you've that I've forgotten about in a lot of cases pop up on there, and I go, and I stop. I stop what I'm doing, I watch it, and then I send it to my wife. I send her, hey, did you see this? Apple
That's
Apple
what's
found
so
this
unique
memory.
too, because of a lot of people have iPhones and they've had them since 2007 or 8, whenever they came out. Like that's a long history of your iPhoto that you can pull from and get these wild memories.
I mean, yeah, our daughter was born in 2005. I got my iPhone in, I don't know, 2007, something like
Yeah.
that. And so same thing. And they get you early. Once you're Apple, they get you. You know, they get everything's in this cloud eventually, and then they've got you for life. And so
The walled garden.
Yeah. So I've got the couple phones now since you recommended that to me. I haven't committed to the other one yet, which I need to do.
Yeah.
Because that thing's going off. I feel very fortunate, very, very fortunate. But I need to commit to that other number.
Yeah, you got to have a phone that only a few people have.
Yeah.
I think, at a certain point in time, you want to be able to have a phone that you check every now and again, but to have a phone where your wife has, your best friends have, and then don't let anybody give that fucker away.
Yes.
Yeah, I tell it, like, if I get a group text, and there's a group text with someone, hey, man, this guy wants to talk to you about a project.
And it's just a number, not a name.
Yeah, I block that person. I say, all right, well, you're off the fucking list now because you just connected me to some asshole from a tech company.
You have to, because how are you supposed to live?
Maybe
with
not
all
even an
those?
asshole. Maybe a nice guy, but it's not his fault.
Just not self-aware enough to realize
well,
that
it's
that's
also,
not appropriate.
Some people don't understand what it's like to, like, I'll leave a podcast, I'll have 150 text messages, 140 text messages. Dang. It's nuts.
Dang.
Yeah, I've had days where I've had hundreds of text messages.
Wow.
You can't keep up. It's not possible.
Nope.
And some people abuse the shit out of that. And they're, hey, man, you're ignoring me? I'm like, oh, dude. If you could see the volume of emails and direct messages, it's like, do you want to be a normal human? Because if you want to be a normal human, you cannot keep up with all that stuff.
Impossible.
Especially if you want to be a person that does what I do, perform.
Yeah.
You want to be funny and do podcasts, and I can't be checking that thing all the time.
And you create
I'm doing a podcast for hours. I'm locked in a conversation like we're having one right now.
Phone's not going.
Yeah.
Phone's on airplane mode, and
then
all
I
that.
leave. I gotta have dinner with my family. I got shows. I got this.
shows,
I got
two
that.
shows a night sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. So now, I mean, it's not nearly at your level, but I certainly see it. And I'm going to do that thing where I miss the 80s. I mean, if I could go back in time, I'd go back to 85. And I would just stay in 85, I think. You know, we have Back to the Future comes out. Rambo First Blood Part 2 comes out.
That's hilarious.
I think Fletch is out there. Anyway, it's a great year. I mean, 85, right in the middle. I just stay right there.
I like it now.
You like it? Do you?
I like it right now.
That's awesome. I love it. I'm going to try to get to that. I'm going to try to get to that sort of an attitude.
Well, because I think this is the last generation before we can read minds.
Oh,
this is the last generation before we become fully integrated with technology that's actually embedded into your body.
Ugh.
I think we're a decade or so away from cyborgs. I don't.
But none of that was there in 1985 either. So
yeah, but I like.
I'm going back.
I enjoy having a phone. I enjoy being able to film things, and I enjoy being able to ask Google, like, how far can a turkey fly? And bam, you get
that was important.
I love doing that with my kids.
100 yards for people joining us late.
All the time while we're driving. We'll have conversations about stuff like,
and you're like, check
what is this? So let's Google it, and then it's really fun. It's fun to have that kind of access to information. There's negative consequences to every generation that's ever existed. There's always going to be negatives, but I like it today.
Man, I love your attitude. I'm going to go home and I'm going to think about this while I'm on book tour right now. So I'm going to go to my hotel and think about this as I continue on book tour. But I'm building a time machine. So I'm building one, and this time machine is it's almost the size of this room right here. And you walk in, and it's VHS tapes, it's video discs. And so video discs are not
discs?
not laser, late 70s. So it's like a record, and so it skips all over the place. And you have to put RCA video disc player. You put them in, it's a square. You pull the square out, and it leaves the disc in there that's plastic. You get to about 35 minutes. You got to put it in again, pull it out, turn it around, put it back in again. So it's the precursor to Laserdisc. So
wow, I wasn't even aware that existed.
Oh yeah,
that's in the 70s,
late like 79 or something like that. People can fact check it. And I won't look at the comments, but it's,
there it is. Video.
There
disc.
it is. Bam! And look at that. Yep, that's the one.
RCA Spectravision.
That's the one we had growing up. Look at that thing.
Wow.
Look at that thing.
I love how they use fake wood with those.
It's fantastic.
Wood
yeah,
paneling.
Exactly. It is so.
Why was like wood pan like Atari too,
or just like a Wagoneer, or like in a big Vacation. You know, they had the wood paneling down the side of their car. But yes,
look at Tom Cruise.
Now, so I'm going back. So my time machine is one of these. It's a VHS or VCR, VHS tapes, and an Atari 2600. And I'm going to track down the first Nintendo, and I'm just going to have those in there. And I walk in, and now I'm back in 1985. And that's my time machine.
Better leave your phone outside.
Exactly. You know, no phones in that thing right there. So yeah, the phone thing. And what I'm going to do with my phone, with the one that I have now, is plug it in and treat it like like it's a cord. So treat it like it is attached to the wall, like it would have been back in the 80s. And so I have to go up there to a room, not the time machine, but another room where I have to like pick it up right there. And it's just attached with the cable to the charger, but I'm going to pretend that is a cord to the wall. And so if I want to check those messages, then I have to go up there. That's my plan. That's my plan. And then the other phone that will be the one that's on me that just a few people have, that sort of thing, because it's gotten a little crazy. But I feel so fortunate. At the same time, you feel so fortunate.
Of course.
You know? You feel so fortunate.
You're way better off being busy than wishing you were busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're way better off. I think the you not being able to work out thing scares me because for me, I need it for mental health.
Yeah.
I have to do some sort of physical exercise, just sort of wring out the tension and anxiety in my body. And if I don't do that, I'd go crazy.
I should be doing that, and I know I should be doing that. But right now, it's shot out of that cannon every morning, and then when it's quiet, it's when everybody's in bed. So that's
maybe you could just like enforce a certain number of calisthenics you have to do every day.
I started just getting out of bed and doing some push-ups and sit-ups and stuff like that, and I did that for like 2 weeks, and then no. And then it just went by the wayside for whatever reason.
But again, you're so fortunate that you're in this position that you have all this stuff going on. That's like the dream. The dream was, I mean, you're living the fucking American dream. I mean, you really did it. You really did it, and it's actually happening.
Yeah, and as are you. And I mean, you're an inspiration for a ton of people. You'll never even know how many people. Like it's impossible to quantify with how many people listen to this and see you and see what you've created and what you've done and what you've built. And I mean, that's on a scale that's not close to what I'm doing. But it's I've been busy every single second of my life, just like you. And I didn't even look at it as building, just like you. You're just doing.
Yeah,
and enjoying.
Just doing.
Yeah, and if you recognize that you just have this one shot at it, like why not go all in?
Why not go all in? Yeah, it's just you don't get a lot of opportunities, and the people that don't go all in, I think they're always going to have some sort of a regret.
Yeah.
I mean, but everybody's different. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that like had that opportunity, like, you know what, I'd rather live a simple life.
Yeah, and that's great too.
That's great
if that's
too.
your thing.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has it. That's what's great about America is you get to choose.
Yeah.
Where most everywhere else in the world you don't.
Right.
So I think a lot of people forget that here. That no matter where you come from, no matter where you start, it's up to you. You have opportunity here. You're not forced into doing what your father did or whatever else. You're not forced into that because of tradition and socioeconomic status and the country that doesn't give you these opportunities.
Yeah.
But we have that here.
We
so once
do.
you recognize that and then realize that you've got this one shot, like you won the lottery being born here. Like I feel like I won the lottery being born here, not having my buddy give the book to Chris Pratt or having somebody give the book to Simon & Schuster or whatever it was. Being born here is winning that lottery.
Yes,
and I've always felt that way.
That's true. That's 100% true because people like to compare themselves to other people like, oh, they have more opportunities. They were set up better. They this, they that. But you, if you're listening to this, you live in a rare time. This is a rare time, and you're in an amazing place. Mm-hmm. If you're in America in particular, but even if you're in other parts of the world, I mean, this is a great place to be alive.
Yeah, a lot of people want to come here for that, just for that, because they don't have it where they are. So they do everything they possibly can, sacrifice everything to come here. So they have that opportunity that we're lucky enough to be born with.
I think about that when I see the border crisis. When I see the border crisis, I'm like, listen, if I was in Guatemala, I'd be doing the same shit. I'd be sneaking across that border just like everybody else. I guess it's not even sneaking anymore.
Just walk.
Seems like just walking, and they give you a free phone.
Yeah. I heard a buddy of mine from the Border Patrol texted me the other day, and he was, because I sent him one of the books. I sent him one of these, actually, in this case right here, and he's a Border Patrol agent down there, and I sent it to him, and he got home from work, and he took a picture of it, and he said, man, he texted me. He's like, man, this was a rough day, and this made my day. Getting this, that you still remember me from these, whatever. But he said today was horrible, and it was right the Title 42 thing just a few days ago, and he talked about people coming across and getting $1,500, I think it was, and off they go, and how they're forced to release and do all these things, and their job is to protect, yet they have to let through, and they don't know who they're letting through, and
it's not
perfect
screening process.
So you're this person that's supposed to protect. You're supposed to be on that border, protecting that border. You're on that wall. That's what you swore your oath to. And now you're just opening these gates.
It's
and
crazy.
He was just so demoralized. And
what the fuck do you think that is? Like, why is that happening?
Well, I mean, I think there's a voter base that a certain segment of society thinks is going to be more apt to vote for one side than the other. But we have, I mean, when you talk about, and people like to make fun of Trump and the wall. I mean, there are great memes out there about the wall. And then people like to point to places in history where walls were meant to keep people in. Yeah. Well, no, the walls also work to keep people out. So it's just tough. But you also, at the same time, as a compassionate person, you want to let that person in
Yeah.
from Guatemala that worked their way all the way up here and put in that work for a new opportunity for them and their family here. And that's going to be probably a productive citizen. But along with that person comes other people with
Yeah.
nefarious types of ambitions that can also work their way across.
Of course.
So it's extremely tough. But a country needs borders, and otherwise it's not a country.
Yeah, I don't understand how it's this porous. I don't understand how it's this crazy. Because when you're watching the influx of people from, and again, I understand why they would want to do it.
Totally.
But what a fucking terrible mismanagement.
Yeah, no, it's the compassion of the American people. We're very compassionate, I think, overall. And just like when you see somebody who posts a picture of a dead animal and they're so excited, they put in all this work and they got there and they took this picture and they posted it and then they get destroyed online because of these comments or whatever it might be.
People that are eating a cheeseburger.
Yeah, that happens as well. But they're doing it. It's not. It can be exploited, it can be twisted, and it can be turned, and they're putting it up there because they're feeding their family or whatever else. And now it's all these things are very connected because you can exploit and you can twist and you can turn all of them. You can weaponize all of it, and internet and social media in particular makes that a lot easier. And now these companies that own these things are not American companies; they're global multinational corporations, and they benefit. But America gave them, in most cases, that opportunity to be so successful, to be so wildly wealthy, more wealthy than most anyone in the history of the world. So it's a tough time. It's a very tough
It's a
time.
weird time. It's a weird time.
Man, it is so crazy. But Border Patrol, I mean, those guys down there, they get, and law enforcement in general, teachers in general. Like I met a guy yesterday, came to a book signing, and he was a law enforcement for 20 years and became a teacher. It's like the two things that are just vilified right now, getting shot up, just figuratively.
Yeah.
It's just, oh my goodness, he's asking for trouble. But what a great guy. He was awesome. And brought an old Civil War Civil War percussion rifle, and showed it to me at this book signing. And what a great guy. But geez, people still want to serve. They want to stand up there as law enforcement. Austin, I know, has an issue with that right now.
Yeah.
Border Patrol agents, teachers. I mean, what a tough time to be in those positions.
I know, and they're just not appreciated, and our culture, for whatever reason, doesn't celebrate them like they should.
I appreciate those guys every day, and I think about them every day. So thankful that they're out there every day, willing to do that job, willing to be teachers, willing to put themselves on the line on the border, willing to suit up and get in that squad car and roll into the city or whatever else, knowing that there's a whole segment of society that just wants to vilify them no matter what they do, and it's a tough position to be.
It's very tough, hard on the morale. Especially police officers, well, and teachers, both of them. You're right. Those are the two people that are most maligned, the two groups of people.
And I think you're drawn to those things for good reasons. Right off the bat, you want to teach kids or whatever else, and all of a sudden you find yourself embroiled in some crazy controversy, and you're like, I just want to teach kids some history, or want to teach them math, or whatever it might be. And same thing with cops. I mean, they're getting that squad car to protect, and they go out, and people make a mistake, and there's good people and bad people in every single institution and every single organization.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter what it is. But then the mistakes are vilified and then used to divide a country, not just
politically. It's pretty fucked.
It's tough. It is tough. Man. In Austin here, you guys have that going on right now, right? The police, there's like all sorts of stuff going on in the...
defunding the police.
Yeah, right here.
A lot of
do you notice it since you've been here?
Yeah, there's definitely a decrease in police presence, and my friends that have had issues, they said the wait time is insane, and it's not good.
That's wild. And also, how about outside where the comedy club is? Is that...
Well, we hire a lot of Austin cops for the comedy club.
Nice.
I wanted to hire them to show them that we care and we respect them, and we want to give them employment. And so guys that are off duty, they work there.
Nice.
So it's nice.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
It helps a lot. And it also keeps the club safe. It's good for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I worry about the book tour. There are a lot of cops that come, thank goodness, that are in the audience, because when I'm doing a signing, it's like I'm looking at that person, I'm so thankful, I'm shaking that hand, we're getting that picture, and but also that means I'm not paying attention to anything else. So I'm lucky that there are a lot of cops in the audience that are looking out for me, which is very, very cool. I mean, Salman Rushdie, remember Salman Rushdie in the 80s with the Satanic Verses?
And then just gets attacked recently.
Yep, last summer, stabbed in the neck and face and lost an eye. And I'm not sure how he's doing right now, but that's all those years later.
I know.